Those Who Do the Podcast will begin after this short message.
This episode is brought to you by Our Weird World. Every week, I, John Henson, dive into weird, crazy, and forgotten stories from the history books that you have probably never heard before. I try to put some humor into it, or maybe I just come off sounding like a dick. That's really up for you to decide. But join me every Monday. Subscribe everywhere that you get your podcasts.
Contact Those Who Do Podcast by emailing thosewhodopodcast@gmail.com. All right, welcome to another episode of Those Who Do the Podcast. With you as always, I'm Zach. On today's episode, we're going to delve into something that is far outside of my sphere of knowledge, which actually, as I've been doing this show, has been more the rule than the exception. So I'm going to learn about something today, and I'm really excited about it. And full disclosure, it's something I should already know about, but I'm not a good nerd. So today we're going to talk to Mike Dennehy about being a dungeon master. We're going to talk about all things Dungeons. No, don't shut it off. Don't shut it off. We're going to talk about all things Dungeons and Dragons. And as we do all times, we're going to make it applicable to all humans and not just nerds like us. So, Mike, thank you for joining us today on Those Who Do.
My pleasure.
David Feld. Yes. Thank you for being here. David Feld tricked you into doing this, I think.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he was real smart about it. He's like, "Are you available this day and time?" It's like, "For what?" He's like, "No, I'm not going to tell you. Are you available?"
It's a trap.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I've actually been looking forward to this because when last time I was out, well, not the last time I was out in LA, but the time before, I sat down with David and Sean O'Brien and Tony, and they tried to educate me in Dungeons and Dragons, and I got so wrapped up in the performance aspect of it. I was like, I thought my whole job was to simply be the character. So I'm like trying to crack jokes and like do dialogue and stuff, and they're like, "Dude, just roll the dice." just like, I don't think this is all that. But I didn't know how involved you're supposed to get. So we'll talk about that at some point. I didn't know how much I was supposed to embody the character and how much I was just supposed to be doing the math. So,
I mean, off the cuff, it sounds like you were doing it right and they were doing it wrong. So,
well, good. I'm glad. I can't wait to tell David.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I just didn't know. I didn't know how into it I was supposed to get. So I can't wait to hear your take on that. So what we always like to do when we get started, you were nice enough to have listened to a couple episodes, so you probably know the basic format. I want to talk about little Mikey. When little Mikey was about 5 years old, what was he into?
Dragon Ball Z.
Okay.
X-Men, the animated series, after school, every day.
Yep.
5 though? I mean, it might have been more like 10. I actually, interestingly, I think I don't have any real memories before 6. So 10 might be the youngest I go.
What was your core memory at 6?
A birthday party. Slip and slide birthday party.
Nice. No one got injured or anything.
My brother destroyed the slip and slide. Actually, he did. He destroyed it. He was a lot bigger, and he launched himself and blew it up. But it was not. Nice. It was not an unfond memory. It was still fond.
Older brother, younger brother,
older brother.
Just the two of you. Just the two of you, or you got
4 brothers,
wow.
or three brothers, 4 of us. So yeah.
What's the breakdown?
In ages, one's like 50 now. 50, I'm 40. So, and the other two one's 47 and the other's 44. So they're 47, 44, almost, or maybe 49. I don't, bad with birthdays too.
Well, you guys are all around the same age. So, I mean, it's a fairly normal age dynamic, I think. Yeah. Which brother was it that blew up the slip and slide?
The oldest one. He was like 10 years older. I know. What a bastard. I'm from Illinois too. You're from Iowa, right?
Yeah. Where are you from in Illinois?
From south suburbs of Chicago. Almost not even suburbs of Chicago. Across the street. Grew up across the street from a cornfield in New Lenox, Illinois.
Oh, nice.
So, right near Joliet, near the prison.
Oh, yeah. Your regular blues brother.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. I lived in Chicago for 3 months. and then I ran out of money and came crawling home. It was a very expensive, scary place to live, man.
It really is.
That was, if you were my therapist, this would be where we started talking about where my failure complex started.
And was it in Chicago?
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. Yeah, when I had to come crawling back at 23 years old and beg to sleep in my parents' basement.
Oh, that sounds rough.
It wasn't great. It wasn't awesome, but I think I learned a lot from that. Here it was. One of the things is it was basically, I blame it on my unwillingness to accept public transportation.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think if I would have just learned public transportation, it would have not been nearly as much of a anxiety-inducing mess as Chicago was for me, because I drove my car everywhere.
So you had to find parking. Parking is very expensive in Chicago.
Yes. And when I was looking for an apartment, there was no parking, and I was working at Blockbuster Video, and so I was coming home at like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I didn't want to have to buy a second wallet to give them when they robbed me. I didn't want to mess around with
Did you really get robbed? You got robbed?
No. The guy who I lived with, when he was the manager of the Blockbuster. When he was managing Hollywood Video, he did get robbed at gunpoint. Just for DVDs, though. Like, I ran out with a stack of DVDs. He didn't, take any money from the register or anything.
Wow.
It's like, oh, great. Good job.
That's such a throwback. Hollywood Video and Blockbuster.
Yeah.
Thank you. I forgot all about Hollywood Video. I did.
Yeah. My first experience with Hollywood Video was in Ames during college. That was pretty much, I would exclusively rent from there. I don't know why. There was a Blockbuster, but it was just kind of like, let's give the little guy a chance. So I moved there to, originally my plan was to do stand up there. Never got on stage once, and then went back a year later and hit a bunch of open mics. It was so weird. I was such a weird dude. Am such a weird dude.
Sure.
Ask David. He'll tell you. So Midwest growing up, traditional nuclear family.
Yeah. Everything was pretty normal. Wake up to cleaning on Sunday morning. The house would smell like Shania Twain and roses. You know what I mean? Playing the music. And so grew up across the street from a cornfield, was told to go snipe hunt on more than one occasion and did,
Do you ever get sent after blinker fluid?
No. My family was never very good with mechanical things or technology things. So they wouldn't have known to make that joke. Oh
gosh, I would have sent you after blinker fluid, a left-handed screwdriver, shelf stretcher, all kinds of stuff there would have been in the back.
I do love those. Those are just such simple, practical jokes from the Midwest.
Yeah, I got in big trouble once. I worked in a hardware store all through high school, and I sent a kid to the back looking for the shelf stretcher, and my boss found out, and he informed me in not so many words that he doesn't pay that guy to do something that doesn't exist. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
So 4 boys growing up in the Midwest, mom and dad. What did mom and dad do?
Dad worked. Mom was a homemaker. So dad did mortgages, a lot of sales stuff. Yeah.
Sure. Do you travel or no?
No, just I was mostly telemarketing,
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So, fairly traditional, blue collar upbringing.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what you get in the Midwest, unless you get into one of the big cities, which nobody wants.
No, I loved it. Humility. Everybody was very humble.
And, what was the population of the town that you lived in?
I think it was 7,000, 10,000.
Okay.
Very small.
Oh, yes. So you had a couple gas stations, couple bars, maybe a Walmart.
They put a Walmart in 20 years after, or 15 years after I left in that town. So it took a long time, but I drove back there last time I visited, which was just July, and for a family reunion, and the cornfield's still there across the street from my house. So they have not developed that yet, but 2 minutes north, it's all developed now.
Really?
Yeah.
And that's happening a lot around here. Which is, even when I went back to Ames to visit, that had been a town of maybe 50,000 with the university, and talking Iowa State University is the largest university in Iowa now. And now I would be willing to bet it's probably close to 100,000. It's just, the town is just nuts. And everywhere there was farmland is apartment buildings and
it's crazy.
Strip malls. Yeah, it's advancement, I guess, depending on how you look at it, but it is different than the way we grew up. I don't know about where your closest mall was, but for us, the mall was a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
You'd go hang out there and stuff, but Nobody goes to the mall now.
No.
It's not a thing.
No.
What kind of stuff did you like to do when you were a kid? What were your interests besides Dragon Ball Z and X-Men and stuff, like activities-wise or hobbies-wise?
Well, I bet you had probably a very similar experience, but it was every single sport. You play every single sport, and you go play with your friends, you go play at their house, your house, whatever game you have enough people to play, you play.
I think it's really sweet of you to think that I would do anything physical.
I don't know. You got to build for hockey, or
I got to build to be the basketball.
Yeah. Oh my God.
No, I did martial arts, but I was not super great at the sports. I
didn't say we were good. I think you missed a step there. We played every sport.
Fair.
We were all very average or below average, but we loved it. Very competitive. Like, it goes to show you don't have to be good to have fun doing something.
Well, and if everybody's bad, then it is competitive.
It is. Exactly. Yeah. Honestly, there was probably more of a disproportionate imbalance with how good we were at things in video games. We did play a lot of video games like GoldenEye, Nintendo 64.
Right.
That was our jam. That was my, 12 to 18 right in there. It was like, I think I turned 18 in 2002. Dude, we played a lot of GoldenEye. So.
And that tracks because you're 5 years younger than me, and GoldenEye was huge in the dorms. That we would play the shit out of it. I mean, to the point where we'd get motion sick.
Yeah.
From the first person shooter, that and Doom. Played a lot of Doom, a lot of Super Tecmo Bowl.
Yeah.
And that was, for me, video games were the thing. I played a lot of video games, and when in my teen years, America Online had just kicked on.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
Yeah. So
the Messenger, or what was it called?
Yeah. It was the instant messages.
Instant messages. Yeah, that's right. I wonder how many of those people were like 70, or 60 and just like, oh, they're a little boy. I'm a little boy too.
I'm sure I spent a lot of time talking to 50-year-old, 16-year-old girls.
Oh my God. So creepy. But I mean, it was cool. I remember how cool it was too.
Well, and it was the only place I could be cool.
Yeah.
Like, I could pick up chicks like crazy through Instant Messenger and then would end up meeting them and dating them. But if I was in the same room with them and had to talk to them, that was never going to happen ever. In a different class of girls than I was used to interacting with too. Like, way more popular, way prettier. Like, I'm pretty good at outpunning my coverage.
Wait, so did you literally met with people who really?
Yeah.
See, I never did. Yeah. What was that like, honestly?
It was a lot safer than it is now, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a little bit narrower of a focus group. So I think there was maybe only one or two times where I met somebody that was not as advertised. But for the most part, and that carried up through college, because once I got to the dorms, people were going away from AOL itself and were just using AOL Instant Messenger, which was just a free download.
Yeah.
But you could do a search by location. So I'd search by location and put in Iowa State University, and then people would put in their location, like what dorm they lived in.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I just fire off a message, just be like, hey, what's going on? I live in Towers also. I live up on Storms. We're having a floor party this weekend. You want to come up? And they would.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, well, and especially during the early part, because you're getting all you're a freshman, you're getting all the freshmen. They don't know anybody. They're looking for social things to do. So it worked out pretty well. Now, had I just walked up to them on campus and been like, hey, you want to go out sometime? Oh, yeah. Blowing their whistle, whatever. It was just enough of a buffer to get my foot in the door.
That's great, dude.
AOL was a lot. Like, me and my buddies in high school would spend a lot of time on AOL. We had one friend that wasn't even his computer. It was an Apple computer that his dad's friend's son left at their house. And that was our initiation into
Gateway.
AOL.
I love it. I love that, dude.
Oh, man, it was so weird. It was so weird.
It's weird, but it is like the start of the modern, long distance romance thing, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, because technically I had one of those too. I had one long distance where we were like all on Instant Messenger, falling in love on Instant Messenger.
Yep.
And then had a relationship, real one, and it's like cute and romantic, but also super fucking weird now. It's
well, and And even back then it was super taboo because people were like, no, you don't. You don't have a girlfriend. Like, no, we chat every night before bed and we have nicknames for each other and stuff. And then it's like, I mean, I don't know about you, but I got catfished once.
Oh, I didn't. I did not.
I was such an idiot. Like, this was in college, man. This was like my senior year of college.
Oh my God.
Got catfished hard. Like, went all the way to the Des Moines airport to pick her up and she was never on the plane. Like, wasn't who she said she was. It was wild.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but I was just like, oh, well, that's my fault, man. Like, did I really think she was purporting to like be like, yeah, it was. Someday I'll sit down and tell that story. Like, and it's people are just gonna be like, you idiot.
Yeah, it sounds epically. Well, I mean, what about the fallout though? Well, like, did you talk to the person, whoever it was, after?
Real quickly, and then it was actually an AOL thing, and all of a sudden, radio silence, and then I found that she had changed her screen name, so she had nuked that account, but she always had her accounts were themed. Her accounts were always themed around the show Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
What was her original name?
Goddess Expelled, but it was instead of the I's. Or instead of the L's, she used capital I's.
And is that based around a character? Is that one of the characters?
Yeah. Season 5 of Buffy, the big bad was Glory, a goddess that was indeed expelled
From the school?
She was expelled from wherever gods live.
Oh, got it.
And sent to Earth, and then she was trying to. Oh, God, it's been a long time since I've seen Buffy. But she was trying to capture Buffy's sister because her sister was the key to all existence or whatever. It was a whole thing.
What was the new name? What was the name? Was it?
It was Goddess Expelled again, but like with 2 S's instead of 1 or 1 S instead of 2. Like, and she wouldn't get very far away from it. So it was pretty obvious that it was her. And then she made up this story about. It was just it's so embarrassing now when you think about it because it's just like.
Can you feel the shame though? Like, do you feel it in your body? You do?
Oh yeah. Well, especially now because like she was claiming to be the actress.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a really good story then.
Yeah, it's a really good cat. It's a solid catfish, man. Like, and knowing now, being a reasonable human being that has some critical thinking skills, none of it was true.
Yeah.
And where I finally broke it down was, it was in the age of not good Photoshop. So she sent a picture of her holding a sign that said, "Hi, Zach," but it was very clearly a picture that was opened in Microsoft Paint and then just used the mouse to write. And I was like, okay, now I see what's happening.
Oh, that's so sweet and terrible.
Oh, it was real terrible. At one point, she sent me a picture that was just black. And she's like, I don't know why you can't see it. Maybe there's something wrong with my digital camera. And so like I got the model number of her digital camera and went to Best Buy and was like, hey, do you guys have this digital camera here? Can you help me with this? I think this girl I know is having a problem with it, and maybe you can show me how it works so I can help her. Oh, it was so bad, man.
That is so bad. Good. So good. It's the opposite of bad. It's really amazing.
I would love to have the opportunity to like sit down with her now and just be like, what was broken? Like, what was broken about you that this was somehow gave you the attention you so badly needed? You know, like what was broken? Knowing about psychology and stuff now that I didn't know then, it's like clearly this person was looking for something that they badly needed in their life. Yeah. And it was just like, you poor thing. And just as much shame as I feel about being dumb enough to fall for it, I also feel badly for her because clearly she was going through it. Like there must have been something going on in her life that was just making her. Or it could have been as simple as the lie started and then it took hold of her and then there's nothing she could do. She was just like, I'm pot committed to this. She could have gone without the I bought a plane ticket and I'm coming to visit you part. That would have been awesome. But
and you're sure she's a she? You're sure that she was the age she purported to be? Or no, she's not that person at all. She's not that person. She said she was that person from the show.
Yeah. And I think so at the very, very end, she sent a photo that she claimed was actually her. Was it? Who knows? But I mean, it was more believable for sure because it was just a regular girl that you would have passed on the street and never even taken notice. So who knows? I mean, it also could have been some big hairy dude. Well, no, I take that back. I talked to her on the phone.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah. So I think it was still a girl. I don't know, man.
Yeah, no, this is great. I also, what's the more modern version of this? Goddess Expelled. Maybe we'll just I'll do a little Google hunt for Goddess Expelled users in any, Facebook. I don't know, man.
Right. Just reach out and be like, hey, are you the one that was the one that did the thing?
For real. That would be pretty phenomenal, actually.
That would be an interesting
20 years
story.
Later. Yeah.
Yeah, that would, I like where your head's at, man.
Kinda, right?
Man.
My ex, she tracked down, for my family, my best friend was adopted. So she tracked down his biological family. And while we went to go inter his father's ashes, who'd passed away not that long before, he met his biological mother for the first time on a cross-country train trip that he and I took together. So that was one thing, that was just like, hey, could you find this person? Yes, you could. Another one was for my sister-in-law, found her biological family. So, yeah, her mom was adopted.
My sister did the same thing. My dad was adopted, and my sister is very overbearing. So she decided to do something my dad specifically asked her not to do, and did search out his bio mom, and has developed a relationship with her. And I'm just like, dude, not your place. Chill out. But it is interesting. Because when I see pictures of her, I'm like, oh yeah, absolutely, that's his mom. Yeah. It's spooky, and it's crazy how easy the internet has made stuff like that, and the 23andMe, and because originally that's how she did it. She did like a 23andMe or whatever. Mm-hmm. It came back and said that she had X amount of blood relatives within a certain area, and then somehow she found. Matter of fact, it might have even listed the people like. Tom Jones is your third cousin or something. Well, she pulls him up and looks at him. He looks almost exactly like me and lives 10 minutes away. So she goes on his Facebook, starts digging around, sends a message like only she could do. Hey, did you give a kid up in like 1956? I'm like, Jesus.
Which is it's just true, right? Yeah, it's just true. Yeah. I do wonder, like at a certain point, I get the feeling, I mean, if you host a podcast and you do that, it's either one of two things. You really care about people or you like hearing yourself talk. I get the feeling you care about people most of the time, probably.
It's 60-40.
Yeah, but like my point is like your sister is like, and it's not that she only cares about herself, but she doesn't care how she comes off. She's like, fuck yeah, did you do this shit? What's up, man? And I'm not that person, but I hope to one day lose enough of the other person to be more of that person. So
yeah, and I think I'm just enough that person to do this, you know, to like be like, hey, Mike, after it takes me 45 minutes to get the audio working right, you want to have a chat?
Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah, I do.
Oh, man, that's all it took was forever. Like, I deserve all the mocking in the world about being pretty well versed in this, and I could not get the audio going today, man. It was a thing for sure.
Well, it took me about an hour last night just to get my setup reset up because I like it to be a certain way. This isn't my real life. This is after an hour of work. So
so you've curated.
Oh fuck yeah, I curated. I mean, well, here's what I did. All this crap that was on top of all that crap, I just took it off. So because life is like that. It's all this crap that goes on the shit you really like that you need to get rid of it so that you can enjoy the shit you like enjoying.
Yeah, you just described my actual career outside of this.
It's really? What do you do?
On top of, I can't tell you.
Okay, I like it. I like it.
I will gladly tell you off of mic, but that's one of the agreements that I made with myself was that I was going to not, and then once I do, it's going to make one hell of a podcast.
Oh, I get it. I get it because this is a public thing. We're technically in a public forum right now. Yep. So anything that is said is public knowledge. You don't want to necessarily mix the two.
No, not at all. But someday.
Off the air, he's like, I'm a priest.
I'm going to have a hard time explaining to all these kids I have.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's just the beginning. The podcast is actually worse than the kids, interestingly.
Yeah, strangely, especially when they find out who I'm voting for.
Yeah,
exactly. What, you're not an evangelical priest? No. Yeah. So I had no idea this was going to be as much fun as it's been so far.
That's pretty great. Yeah.
And a lot like therapy. So you're enjoying video games. You're basically kind of nerd stuff, but you're still doing the mainstream, playing sports, running around with your friends, probably still growing up in the age where, you hop on your bicycle, ride somewhere. You can tell where everybody's at based on the pile of bikes in the yard kind of thing going on.
Yeah. Find a dead body. Follow the train tracks as far as they go. Jump off before you get hit by a train.
Right. And then I go back and rewatch the video of it and realize it does not hold up nearly as much as people think that it does. And I decide it's a terrible movie after all. That kind of thing. Yeah.
Stephen King might have a lot more emotional trauma that he was processing in that story than we were aware of.
100%.
Yeah. I will say, the bully scene in It, like the original and the remake, like, I realized the other day that was the best written bullying scene of all time, because that was the greatest fear of any time you got in a physical altercation with a kid, was that you'd die.
Yeah.
Right. You'd be killed by this kid.
Right.
Or, maimed with a knife. And I'm like, that is so ridiculous to think that as a kid. But that was exactly, he put my greatest fear. I didn't know it was my greatest fear until 2 days ago, but was that I'd be killed in a fight with another kid at 10.
Well, and he has a lot of insight into, that's why he's so great, is that he has a lot of insight into people's fears.
Yeah.
And I think that's why his books are so good, but they don't translate to film as well, because everything that makes his stuff work comes directly from him.
Yeah.
Whereas once it gets on film, you just don't see, I think the newer It was probably the exception. And then I did watch some of the new Stand, and that was actually pretty good. But his stuff has a really hard time translating to film, I think, because it has to come from him. And if it doesn't come from him, it gets all messed up. More messed up than he is.
Do you remember, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but do you recall, when you think back to It and It Chapter 2, the new ones, that James McAvoy was in it?
No.
He's the main character in It Chapter 2.
Oh, wait, well, yeah, he plays one of the adult kids.
Yeah, he plays the main adult.
Okay,
but he's so seamless in it that I just forget it's James. When I watched that movie twice before It Chapter 2, I forgot James McAvoy was in it.
Yeah, I guess
every viewing.
I guess I did too. I was more stuck on
Bill Hader.
Yeah,
because he's phenomenal.
Yeah, and he just kind of stands out better. Yeah,
wow, that's so fucking funny.
And I guess that is success.
That's what I think too.
Yeah, if I don't remember who was playing the character, but I remember the character. Yeah,
absolutely.
Oh man,
I know it's kind of messed up.
Yeah,
you think Bill Hader's like, oh, I love him so much, but we just see Bill Hader kind of.
Yeah, and there seems to be a lot of that. I mean, we could do a whole show based on all the actors that play themselves.
Yeah,
because there is a lot of, but it works for them. I mean, I'm not I don't want to take anything away from it, but it just seems to kind of be a trend right now that it's instead of the guy playing the guy, it's the guy. It's the guy.
Yeah, it's the guy. It's just the guy.
It's just the guy. Yeah. Even Deadpool, Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah,
playing Ryan Reynolds.
God, loved it so much though. Loved it.
I haven't been able to see it yet. I keep wanting to get out and see it. My wife just got back from Alaska. When she got back, she brought something back with her, super sick. So I had to extend my time of trying to keep my children alive. So I haven't had a chance to do much of anything. That's why I'm really glad we're doing this today, because it's kind of nice to sit down and do a thing. So you are doing all the normal kid stuff. Now you get up. What was junior high like for you? Was it fairly uneventful, or did the nerd things that you enjoyed, did it make it tough on you?
Junior high. What I remember most vividly about junior high was exploring counterculture. That's what I remember about junior high. 7th and 8th grade was exploring counterculture and making out with girls. So 7th and 8th grade. And that was kind of it. That's all I really remember. But, I did band, I did acting, I did other stuff like that. Yeah. Junior high was great. It was super fun. Super fun.
Well, I suppose if you were making out with girls, it probably did make it great. You know, we're only 5 years apart in age, but we're apparently 10 years apart when we started making out with girls.
Oh, really?
That was a late bloomer.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. I like it. I like it though.
Oh, you damn attractive people and your.
Yeah. Tony's pretty attractive too.
Oh
wasn't he?
Yeah, and he would tell you.
Yeah. I never had that. I never had that part. I never felt that way, but Tony did. Tony did.
Yeah, he would always point out to me that I was just a little troll and living in his shadow.
Really?
Oh yeah. I mean, we were like brothers, man. Like,
yeah, of course.
like he had his role as the big brother bully, and I had my role of following him around a bunch. So.
Yeah, taking it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, what can you do? I always tell his wife that I took her side in any argument.
Yeah.
Regardless, and she gets me in the divorce. So I told her, so.
That is so funny because you know what? There are people like that. Like he had a certain charismatic charm that you do kind of have to take the opposite person's side automatically because the charming person can make anything sound reasonable.
Oh, sure.
Know?
Yeah.
And it's like, no, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear your explanation. Your explanation only makes me like you less. So.
Accurate. Yeah, but
technically it makes me like you more, but that triggers liking you less. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, it's a vicious thing. It's a vicious cycle. It's a vicious cycle.
Vicious. But yeah, that was middle school. It's sports, all that. Yeah.
When you say counterculture, like what kind of stuff were you exploring?
Like No Doubt. At the time was counterculture.
Okay.
Don't speak. Like a lot of smiley face or mushroom shaped candles.
Okay. Okay.
Baggy clothing, Jinkos.
I had a pair of Jinkos. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Those were counterculture. Yeah. Vans, always wearing Vans. So skateboarder-esque stuff, but people who didn't skateboard.
Sure. I think that was pretty common then. Yeah.
Yeah. Smoking cigarettes. That was one of them.
Yeah.
And then, which is like, I have a daughter who's going into 6th grade Monday.
Oof.
And that's middle school out here. For us, it started at 7th grade in the Midwest. Yeah. But I'm like, I smoked my first cigarette in 6th grade.
Yeah.
It's so baffling. In a million years, I couldn't imagine her doing that. I mean, this is a different world than the world I was from.
Right.
Too.
Right. Well, and there's
Thankfully.
that's looked down upon. Smoking cigarettes is dirty and gross now, and thank God. I mean, I never liked the taste of cigarettes, so I couldn't get into it, but like if they smelled terrible, I dated girls who smoked and I'm just like, ugh. And so now kids are like, my 8-year-old's always like, Aunt Erin smokes the cigarettes. Like, yeah, what do you think of that? They smell bad. I'm like, yes, they do. Remember that. Always remember that. No dating boys that smoke the cigarettes.
Cigarettes?
Yeah, that's how she started saying it when she was little, and she just still says it that way.
I like it. That's true. I wonder what the new cigarettes are. Is it like, mewing or whatever they say? Or is it like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Or is it like heroin? I don't know. Yeah. We'll see what 6th grade has to offer.
I think it's somewhere in the middle, like vaping, but.
So okay. All right. Fair enough. Well,
I mean, I don't know. You live in California. It could be very different.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, very different for you.
I'll shoot you a text when I find out.
Yeah, thanks. I'm glad I'll be the first person you think of when your daughter does something terrifying.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Hey, bro, just want to let you know it's neither. It's meth. So, that's wonderful.
Meth, the new gateway drug.
Yeah, exactly. Vaping's worse than meth, Dad.
Yeah, there's no positives to vaping. Meth at least helped me do my homework.
Yeah. Although I guess technically pill popping would be the thing, like Adderall or something. That's pretty popular, I think, these days.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that the kids are pretty hot on that because there's advantages to it, I suppose. That's what I never understood about meth, really. I talked to a guy once. Meth was a big part of his life. And I was like, dude, explain this to me. Everything that you put into that will kill you on its own. And you mix it together and put it in your body. And then he gave me a chemistry lesson about the things that burn off and what this chemical does to your body and this does. And I was like, it was kind of rhetorical, man. But like, Okay, thanks.
Yeah, buddy. The joke was in the question.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he threw me off because at the time he had all of his teeth. So I was like, hey, how is this guy doing this? But then I saw him a few years later and he no longer had all of his teeth. So I think it is what it is.
Yeah. Even better at chemistry.
Yeah. They don't use the anhydrous quite as much anymore, I don't believe. So it's a little safer. They don't, end up peeling their face off to get a high.
Wow. Yeah.
So your junior high is pretty normal, smoking the cigarettes, making out with the girls, doing all the cool kid stuff, wearing the Jinkos. Then you get into high school. And since you said you were already doing some acting and stuff in junior high, you get into theater and stuff in high school?
Yeah, like sophomore, junior year, something like that.
Yeah.
I had acted a lot outside of school, just like community theater. And in my junior year, I started doing college plays, my junior year of high school.
Oh, wow.
So I started acting at the local college, and that was really, really quite fun.
Oh, sure.
But yeah. So a lot of theater, a lot of tennis. I was actually quite good at tennis, so I played a lot of tennis in high school.
Nice.
Tried football for a week and quit because they work out way too much. Come on, it's too much working out.
Yeah, that's a lot. It's a lot of getting hit, getting hurt, and chicks dig it though, I think. So I've been told. I don't know.
I don't know either. Yeah. So I'm with you on that. But I did diving as well. Some swim. Actually just diving, not swimming.
Divers, they shave their whole body?
It wasn't required, but we certainly did.
Yeah, just because of the science.
Yeah, no, we didn't shave our whole body. But interestingly, I had an inner sinuses issue that I stopped diving from.
Really?
Yeah, it was polyps, and it created a weird pressure variance in my head. So I'd like the lower I went in the pool from the dive, my head would feel like it was going to implode.
That sounds super unpleasant.
It was super unpleasant. I had surgery after the diving season, and never dove again.
Wow.
So, yeah, but it wasn't like I was great. I was just, they were like, does anybody want to actually be on the diving team? That, and it was like anybody that raised their hand went in. Right. You know what I mean? Right. No talent had it.
It's like,
but they're like, oh, he's going to jump.
Most of it's gravity anyway, right? Come on.
What are you really doing? Just fighting gravity for like 7 milliseconds? Nice work.
And splash.
Yeah, exactly.
So what kind of a student were you in high school?
Terrible. I dislike school. And I mean, personally, I don't like the process of learning, being forced to learn things. So to this day, same.
So was there a subject that you latched onto because you enjoyed it and were interested in it, or just all of school is just a bummer to you?
I wouldn't say bummer. I just, no, there was not really a particular subject I liked at all, actually. Yeah, it was all just, I was glad when it ended.
Sure.
But yeah, I put in the effort, and I cared about getting good grades and all that stuff. I just, I just would prefer to choose what I learn, I think, is probably the only lesson. He's a stubborn asshole who doesn't like doing what other people say.
So then you went into the military.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, I did consider it. Consider it. Yes, I really did. I was like super close to joining the Marines. My dad was a Marine. So, and of my brothers, I was the only one physically capable of potentially joining the armed forces. Everybody else was a bunch of sissies. Which is okay.
And then you realize that the core part of that is doing what people say.
Well, right. I mean, here's the interesting thing. All right. So like, why would you not want to take someone else's advice or learn from someone else? It's like a good question we all have to ask ourselves. Why do we resist that idea?
Right.
And there's a part of us that's just dumb and stubborn and never wants to be told what to do ever. And that's the part of me that resisted school. So school was good for me. It was necessary. I'm a really smart guy. I did okay in school, and I love learning. I read thousands of books on my own throughout high school. So it's not that I don't like learning, but part of life is it humbles you to the point where you become more open-minded and less stubborn, and that's a good thing. Right. It's a really good thing, and it makes you you can learn 10,000 times more quickly, more information. You can adapt more easily when you're in that open place. So I think the Marines would have been really good for me to get to that open place, the receiving place, and the non-stubborn place.
They would have broke you, is what
I think so. And I would have enjoyed it. I would have respected and appreciated it in retrospect. So that's what it did for my dad. My dad had issues growing up, was like in foster homes. And,
oh, wow.
Yeah. So when he went to the military, it broke him. in a positive way.
Sure.
You have to surrender to the Marines.
Well, yeah, because they talk about they break you down so they can build you back up.
Yeah.
So and I think there's a lot of society's lost that idea. Everybody gets to have an opinion now, and everyone, if you happen to work in a line of work where there's a large age range, what I have seen is these new kids will come in and they'll be there just out of training or something, and then it's like, I don't feel like I'm being heard. No, you're not. Shut up and listen. Like, learn. You have to learn. You're here to learn. And like, I can only imagine, when I started going to somebody and being like, I don't feel like I'm being heard. They'd be like, yeah, you're not. Shut up.
Yeah.
And what did you just say to me? You don't feel like you're being heard. It's like, there is a time for that, but you have to, whatever you're going to be heard about, you have to have something to say first.
I mean, 10 years is how long they say it takes to master something.
Yeah.
10 years, 10,000 hours, or whatever that whole hour bull crap is. But 10 years feels fairly accurate. It took me about 10 years in my profession to be good enough to have a conversation with someone who's been doing it 10 plus years, because there are just nuances and experiences that you have that change you and how you relate to the context and information you're being given. Right.
Right.
Just takes that long to learn it.
Yeah.
So.
There's a big difference between learning something and knowing something. Like, and I think the more people that could realize that, the better, the more communicative things could be, because it's like, you need to be quiet. Sometimes it's okay to just be quiet. What did you do after high school then?
I went to college out here in Los Angeles.
Okay.
Acting college.
Oh, cool. Where'd you go?
American Academy of Dramatic Arts.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, sure. I had a drinking problem throughout college.
Oh, really?
And pretty much, yeah. And the drinking problem and my behaviors around it contributed to me not being asked back for a second year of college. Bad behavior all the way through. Nothing condonable. But so instead of the Marines, my wake up call was being essentially kicked out of college for drinking.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So kicked out for good, or you got sober and went back?
I got sober and didn't go back.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't try to go back.
Right.
There was just too much shame around kind of getting kicked out in my behavior for me to try to go back.
So at the risk of getting a little too personal, did you?
No such thing.
Okay. Fantastic. I like where your head's at.
Yeah.
So you got sober, still sober?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 20 plus years now.
Oh, man. Happy birthday. Good job.
Thank you. 40 years old, 20 years sober.
Nice. I mean, that's really pretty amazing, man. It really is. Yeah. I come from a family of addicts. So like I'm always super impressed when like people surrender and say, it's time to get healthy,
It's like you got to lose the most important thing to you, though, right? For me at that time, it was acting.
Yeah.
It was. I came out here to go to college to act, and I lost my chance to do the thing that I cared about the most because of my behaviors, because of my drinking. So for me, it's like, okay, you lost the most important thing to you, so that it worked.
Well, everybody's rock bottom is different,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like when rock bottom we don't know, but when you lose things that are important to you, it really helps you on that path to getting sober.
Yeah, 100%. So did you use a program?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Good.
AA for 15 years.
Good.
So,
Good.
Yeah.
Good. I've heard really good things. Like the people that really devote themselves and contribute to the program are usually pretty successful. So I'm happy for you, man.
Thank you.
I really am. It's tough, and it's commendable to have the fortitude and the ability to fight something like that, because it's nasty, man. It's a nasty thing. So good for you.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. So then you get sober, and then what? What do you decide you're going to do?
I went to do what my parents do, which is mortgages for a little bit, and then got a job on a set on. Actually, I got a job on a reality TV show. I'm going to be careful about.
Oh, sure.
You sharing what company? Cause
No, that's
they're crazy.
Yeah.
It was a reality TV show company though.
Yeah.
And this was in 2004.
Okay.
2005. So, I mean, like reality TV then was very different than it is now.
Yeah.
Reality TV is very like established.
Yeah.
Right. And at the time that people were doing it back then, it was very like, if you could make a hit from a reality TV show, you were like, it was like, wow.
Right.
Wow. So I was working for some people who were very crazy. I think it's the right word. Just sort of like bonkers, like legit bonkers, crazy, insane.
Yeah.
And it was really fun. And I moved on rather quickly, though, to working on features. Did Dukes of Hazzard, the remake?
Yeah. Dude, I'm one of the few people that love that. I mean, loved it. Like, I still quote anytime, this is so stupid. Anytime my wife and I are driving somewhere and we see a dead deer on the side of the road, oh dear. Every time. Like every time. And I'm just like, it's so dumb, but I loved it.
Well, so Super Troopers came out before Dukes of Hazzard, right? It came out a couple years before, but Jay Chandrasekhar got his, I mean, that was him he directed Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah. Yep.
So there's very Super Trooper-esque humor in that movie.
Yeah, it was a lot. It knew what it was. It was very funny. I saw it in the theater, man. I was a Dukes of Hazzard was my jam when I was a kid. Like I would take the General Lee out into my backyard on Friday nights and clean it because tonight's your night, buddy. Tonight's your night.
Oh, that's really sweet.
Yeah, I love the Dukes of Hazzard. I remember going and sitting on Santa's lap. And so when I was a kid, like the G.I. Joes and the other like 3 3/4 inch characters with the joints, I called them pinchermen because my grandma had a big like 12-inch Bat Masterson, and my thumb got pinched in the knee joint when I was little. And so I was like, so those always became pinchermen to me. So I get on Santa's lap and I was like, hey, I would like the Bo and Luke Duke pinchermen. And he looked at me like my eyebrows were on fire. He's like, you want the what now? And I repeated myself like, duh, Santa. And my mom had to explain to him, he means the action figures. He calls them pinchermen.
That's so cute. That's like cigarettes, or how it says cigarettes. Cigarettes. I like that. That's great.
So when that movie came out in the theater, me and my friend Kelly went and saw that movie, and I laughed throughout the whole thing. So, I love that fucking movie. I had fanboy a little bit. All right, continue.
Yeah, no. I mean, so the way I got that job, by the way, was at the time we had to fax resumes.
Oh, wow.
Right. 2003, 2004, something like that. Maybe 2005. So I faxed out like 100 resumes. One of them was to a movie called Tenacious D, The Pick of Destiny.
Yeah, sure.
So my cover letter said, the RE were the subject of the fax, The Pick of Destiny. Right. So I faxed that resume out. And it arrived in the production offices of the Dukes of Hazzard, and they didn't realize that the company that was in there before used to be the Pick of Destiny, right? They didn't know that. And so they thought I was calling myself the Pick of Destiny as a PA.
That's awesome.
It's just like they don't know me, right? So they call me merely because they thought I had the balls to call myself the Pick of Destiny, and they hired me just because of that. It was an accident. My first like real industry job that led me on my entire career was a complete accident.
So you have, it's so fucking weird how this happens. It's like, how when Playboy used to have on the cover, you'd find the bunny?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So,
no, I don't actually. That was
really?
A lie. Sorry. Yeah, I didn't know.
Oh,
that.
yeah. So, on the cover of every Playboy, you could find the bunny head. And sometimes it would be like really creative. It'd be like the ends of the Playmate's hair would curl to the shape of the rabbit. Like,
oh wow,
like they would do all the stuff. Yeah. So, and sometimes it would be a little bit more obvious. It'd be like a shadow in the shape of the bunny or whatever, but there's a thing that they used to do. So the concept of serendipity has been that way in this show. Like every episode, it pops up like the bunny on the cover of Playboy. And that is your contribution. Like that is incredibly serendipitous because you didn't mean to do that thing that ultimately led to you getting that job. And it's just crazy how serendipity works in our favor so often.
I totally agree. What's interesting, I mean, you can trace it directly to my career that I do today.
Right.
100% directly back to that first resume.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, so one job.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Which is pretty baffling. Yeah, it is pretty baffling. There's another term for it. I wrote a paper about it once, and I went to Santa Monica College for a little bit. Carl Jung, synchronicity.
Oh, okay.
Synchronicity is the only other term that I like. And the difference for me between serendipity and synchronicity is that with synchronicity, we can assign meaning to that, right? Serendipity, I mean, is more like a, like fairies.
Kind of magical.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Which is great.
Yep.
No. And synchronicity is only that, those things that happen, they are meaningful to us, and that's why they matter.
Yeah.
You know.
And that almost would lead me to say that synchronicity is come up almost every episode as well, because it has been a meaningful event that kind of came out of nowhere and was not necessarily related to what was happening, but it did hold a lot of meaning for the people involved. So
the people that it happened to.
Yeah. And that's pretty amazing. I mean, it's just amazing how, because we talked to Joe Stillman that wrote Shrek and Beavis and Butthead and King of the Hill, and he talked a lot about how if you don't pay attention to what's going on around you, you can miss those moments that can lead to something that you had no idea they would have ever led to, because the serendipity is happening. So that this might be more serendipitous than synchronistic. If you miss those moments because you don't think they apply to you, but they're happening around you, you might miss out on ultimately the most important thing that can happen in your life.
Yeah.
So being aware and being present, being a huge part of success, Yeah. Yeah. So you get that job. So now you're working, and that gets you kind of, I mean, obviously that was 15, 20 years ago. So it doesn't necessarily.
Yeah, I was 21.
Wow.
21st birthday. I got to meet, they gave me something to deliver to Jessica Simpson's trailer, just to meet her. That was my gift from the production team, which was pretty nice.
I mean,
she was so unbelievably good looking.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, we're talking Dukes of Hazzard, Jessica Simpson. My 21st birthday present was to go meet her in person. So I love that.
I cannot think of, I don't even have words, honestly.
Right? Yeah. Dude, I mean, it was pretty awesome. And I remember I don't drink. I'm sober.
Right.
So I did. I mean, I got drunk on that shit. So.
Hey, you can't have any alcohol. How about some dopamine? You want some dopamine?
Yeah, exactly.
Some dopamine.
Exactly. And the director was really nice too. Jay Chandrasekhar. He was really cool.
Yeah, so. Those guys are all super solid dudes. I talked to Kevin Heffernan and Steve Lemmy quite a few years ago. One of the first ever interviews that I ever did was those guys. They were at a comedy club here in town, and I worked for the radio station for a while, and then my co-host for my very first podcast was the station director, and so he got me in a room with them, and they were so gracious and so willing to just chat with some, toolbox in Iowa with a podcast in his basement, it wasn't, there was no legitimacy to it at all. And to their credit, they did 2 shows that night, and we talked a little bit before the first show. And then they're like, well, hey, come back after the show and we'll chat some more. I went back up after the show and they were going to eat. And I was like, oh, hey guys, just go ahead and eat. We don't need to record anything or anything. I appreciate all the time. No, get in here. And so we just ended up talking for an hour, never even turned the recorder back on. While they ate. So they're just decent dudes. I think that whole group of guys really has an appreciation for comedy and knowing where they came from. And sketch comedy people are kind of like that though. They have a little bit more down to earth thought process behind how they entertain. So a whole group of decent dudes.
100%.
One of my first experiences with anyone in the industry. So luckily I wasn't soured on it. So I continued doing this kind of stuff. So,
well, I had a chance to do a couple years ago, Picard, the show on Paramount Plus or whatever.
Yeah.
But I am such a massive Next Generation fan. Massive Next Generation fan. That I'm glad I didn't do it just because I don't want to get to know who they really are.
Right.
I just want them to be those characters in that story. It just didn't work out that I couldn't end up doing it for various reasons.
Right.
But God, I'm glad I didn't. I'm just really glad. I'm such a fangirl.
Yeah.
Fangirl.
And you worry too about what if it ruins it for me?
Sure.
And I don't want that. I don't want it to ruin it for me, and
don't meet those people.
Right.
They're not the people either. They're not. They're just actors, Actors are actors.
Yep. Yeah. They have a job to do, their job is making you believe there's somebody they're not. So
yeah, they might not even like it.
Yeah.
They might be like, well, I thought it was kind of lame, but I said the words, didn't I?
Yep.
Shut up.
I did a great trailer. I want to go to the trailer now. Just get out of my way, So it is. And I've been lucky. I must say I've been really lucky that all the industry people that I've had the opportunity to sit down and talk to have all been amazing people. And I think a lot of that too is because they're all through Tony. So
Yeah,
obviously
that's
he's
right.
not going to surround himself with assholes, right? you
Yeah.
know, so
I mean, you can't be an asshole and surround yourself with assholes, right?
yeah.
So he's like, I'm the asshole
Yes.
here. So I get the nice people.
Yes, 100%.
All the nice people
Yes.
now. Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
That's the move.
Yep.
If you're going to be a dick,
surround yourself with the good people.
non-dicks. Yeah.
Oh God, you know, and I'm pretty sure I probably said something similar to that to him before. Like, I told somebody, my buddy Tim, the other day, who is one of my new co-hosts on my other show, is he was doing something. Tim knew Tony really well too. We all went to college together, and Tim said something, and finally I was like, all right, I need you to shut up for a second, and you need to listen to what I'm about to say to you, because it is a tremendous honor for me to say this to you. Don't be obtuse. Because that's what I used to say to Tony all the time. I was like, you're being fucking obtuse. Stop being obtuse. What? Me? Yes, you're being obtuse. So Tim now is apparently the one that I get to call obtuse.
I'm glad. I'm glad you got someone to say that too.
Yeah, I need somebody to tear down so I can build myself up. It makes me feel better.
100%. Hundo P.
Okay, so now we need to talk about what it is that you do, which in this case is running campaigns for D&D as a dungeon master. All of this was background so that people can know you and apply, and so we can figure out, drill down to find out what it is about your core essence as a person that lends itself to the thing that you do. So when did you discover Dungeons and Dragons?
I played role-playing games that weren't Dungeons and Dragons, but were like adjacent.
Sure.
When I was 17.
Okay.
And loved it to death. Had a great time. Wrote like copious backstory and all that for my characters. Enjoyed the process of role-playing. Enjoyed the stakes of the game. You know, like the dungeon master at the time was this, the most intelligent one of us, and
right.
he would set up a story and tell us all the context of the story, and it felt the way we engaged with it felt real.
Right.
In those moments that we were playing that game, we interacted with that dungeon master to get the result we wanted. And it was just really good. The games themselves they were called Demon Hunter X. One was a Dragon Ball Z role-playing game because, 17, 16.
Right.
And Vampire the Masquerade. So there were like multiple games. Actually, I played some of those when I was older too, not when I was 17. But I was only a player. That's kind of how I started, was just playing all these different games that weren't Dungeons and Dragons.
So when you talk about there being stakes, was it just because you're so involved in the game, or was the idea that you're playing, like if a character died, it was dead forever? Because I think that some people play that way and other people don't.
It's interesting. I think death is one of the tools in a game that makes people feel like there are stakes, and that it's not a silly made up thing that was just told to you in your ears that you have to act like it's real. Because what happens is when you build a character, you're investing your time into coming up with a character. So however much time you put into that, which people, especially when they're new, tend to spend a lot of time making up their characters. They think it's really important. They think, this is like a representation of me. This is like, I've always wanted to do this and I want to try it and I'm nervous about it because it's lame, but it's also not lame. It's cool. It's nerd cool. Stranger Things did it, right? So the new players are like, they're putting a lot into this one character. They're writing us like I did the first time I did it. I wrote this significant backstory, and all it actually does, in my opinion, is it grounds the player in the sense that this is a reality that exists, right?
When you talk about building a character, because I'm completely ignorant to the whole process.
Yeah.
Kind of run us through what it means to build a character, because like one question I have is, how does your character receive the attributes that it has? Like, I can't just be like, yes, my character is a level 4,000, right? Like you have to, those attributes have to come from somewhere. Otherwise everybody would just be all powerful and that would be not fun for anyone. So kind of run us through, like we're 2 years old, building a character from scratch.
Well, there's a few different things. It's if you D&D Beyond is incredible, and it in D&D Beyond, it takes you through the process of building a character really easily with steps. And so I highly recommend to anybody listening, if you want to play D&D but don't want to read like 3 books to learn how to play D&D, just get a subscription to D&D Beyond or find a DM who has one, because it brings you step by step with how to create a character with like little bubbles, pop-up bubbles that say exactly what things are. It's like super, super simple, built for literally for 2-year-olds. So that's my first recommendation. Now, taking you through the process of building a character, there's race, which is like, which type of race doesn't mean, like it does to us, Hispanic, white, black, Asian, whatever. It's like ogres, right?
Wait, you're telling me
elves.
Nobody's racist against ogres?
Everybody's racist against ogres.
So it kind of means the same thing.
It means exactly the same thing. And it's just a way, but it's impossible to identify. Like you can't assign any of the attributes from any of these like made up races to any existing cultural identity.
Oh, good.
In the real world.
Good.
So the racism is all fake,
right?
But it's there. It's real,
right?
But not against a real existing culture. But if there are elves out there, yeah. They say some pretty mean shit about elves. So apologies to elf people if they exist. But no, so you pick elf, ogre, dwarf, human, or there's like a lot. There's several races, and they keep growing and growing and growing. But and each one of these has qualities to it, like benefits,
sure.
Right? Like in D&D, there are like 6 or 8. Like they're considered your attributes. It's like strength, dexterity, wisdom, intelligence, charisma. Actually, it could be 5. Oh, and constitution. So it's 6. So every single different race, you'll see like a picture next to the race when you select it or whatever, has different qualities that it is better at. An ogre, for instance, has bonuses, which is like the number value gets a +1. The number value meaning that's like if every human that existed had these 6 attributes, what would their numbers be on a range of 1 to 20?
Okay.
Right? Average humans like 8. So these characters that we build are like 12s, 13s, 14s, 15s, 16s.
So like, for example, if the attribute is strength, because an ogre's presumably big, they'd get a +2 for strength just by being an ogre. But they might get a -2 for intelligence. I mean, not to be ogreist, but I'm just assuming.
You are.
I'm just assuming, and we know what assuming does. But I've yet to meet a scholar ogre.
Okay, now the funny thing you just said there.
Okay.
All right. Here's what's funny about that is if you'd said that in the beginning of developing a character, like a lot of times DMs will sit with or hang with their friends who are going to be building characters to guide them through that process. If you had said that in a session, 2 or 3 of the 6 players there would have built smart ogres immediately. They would have said, fuck you, I'm building Sherlock ogre, motherfucker. Because that is a base tenet of D&D, in my opinion, which is to say, fuck you to what people would assume.
Right.
So I've done that once or twice
awesome.
Myself. Anytime someone says it can't be done, you go and try and figure out how to do it. Right.
So how do they... Okay, and then some things are coming back to me now from the one time that I played. So am I correct in saying that when you first create this character, you have to roll for their attributes?
That's right.
Okay, so that's how they get their base attributes. Now you can always build them later through things, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I found that rolling, so there's a couple ways. There's a point buy method and there's a rolling method. Point buy method is they give you a certain amount of, numbers to use, like 20. I think they give you 27, and they all add up to give you sort of an average score across the board on all those 6 skills those 6 attributes I mentioned: strength, con, dex, wisdom, intelligence, and charisma. So you can either use an average or you can roll, and you roll 4d6, dropping the lowest d6 for each one of those to determine what your score is. Now, the wonderful thing about rolling...
Wait a minute. There's no subtitles because this is an audio podcast, so I need you to explain everything you just said.
Okay, great.
The roll d6. What is that?
Oh, yeah. Subtitles are good, man. I love subtitles. Doesn't it? No, okay, all right.
This is mostly an audio podcast, so if you can figure out a way to do subtitles on an audio podcast.
All right, my apologies. If you are learning D&D through an audio podcast completely, not only do I applaud you, but I suggest, I'll give my email address to Zach. And if you want, you can email me and I will explain all this. I'll get on a phone call with you. Anybody who wants to know.
He'll do it too. He called me earlier when I was fucking up the audio.
I did. I'll call and I will walk you through character creation, because the longer you spend creating a character, the more invested you will be in the story that the character walks through.
So is that a 6-sided dice?
It is.
Is that what,
it's just like Monopoly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
D6.
Okay.
There's D4, which is a little pyramid shape dice. There's a D6, which is just like the Monopoly dice. A D8, which is, you know what? Oh, I know it is audio, so. But
yeah, well, we can, and we do use some of the video too, so it's.
So this is a D8.
Okay.
Right?
Is the D just
a dice?
For dungeons?
Stands for dice. Yeah.
It's like ATM machine, automatic teller machine.
Exactly. Yeah. So this is a D10. D10. I don't think I have any. Yeah.
So the one he basically showed, the D10 kind of looks like the top from Inception. Like it's just it's like a dreidel kind of.
And this is the D20.
And the D20 I think is basically the one everyone envisions when they hear Dungeons and Dragons. It's kind of the avatar for Dungeons and Dragons itself. And you can't see it, but you may if we do some of the release some of the video. He basically had a tray. Not unlike one used for, like rolling weed or something, but instead it has felt inside of it for the die. How many Ds is that thing? That round one there?
Yeah, this is a D100.
So how do you tell which number's actually up on that thing?
It's really hard.
Yeah.
Actually, you're not wrong. It's like, and imagine if I used it a lot. It's already pretty rounded as is, but if I use it a lot, you'd wear off all the edges and never know. So
that's more of a novelty item, right?
It is a novel. Yeah. I think it was a gift someone got for me at one point that I kept. So,
nice.
But yeah, you generally roll the D20 mostly. So this is the most oft used die in your arsenal, because every time you want to do something, you use those attributes, right? The 6 attributes, and based on the number that you got from the D6 you rolled, you're going to get a bonus. Okay, mm-hmm. So from at 10, it's a +0. There's no bonus. So if the 3d6, I said you're going to roll 4d6 for each attribute, right? And drop the lowest d6 that you roll. So of those 3d6, that will give you a number, right? The max number would be what? 6, 12, 18, right? So you could have an 18, and an 18, I believe, is a +3. So you'd add +3 every time you roll that die, that d20. I know this shit is bonkers, actually.
But here's the messed up thing to me. Okay, so one, just to clarify, so if you roll 4d6, drop the lowest one, you're rolling the d6 4 times, dropping your lowest number.
Exactly.
Right? Okay. So my question is, why isn't the 18 just an 18? Wouldn't it be easier to just be like the 18 is a +18 instead of an 18 is a +3?
That's an interesting idea. But then you roll a d20, right? Every time you roll a d20, I just rolled a 15.
Right.
So how I think it's ease, okay? Because 15 plus 18. Carry the 1.
Right.
But 15 plus 3 is 18, right?
So basically it all comes from people love rolling that 20.
Yeah, I think they love rolling the 20, and it's so much simpler to just have these pluses based on it's math. Again, I only like learning things that I care about, so I have no idea, but I do like adding smaller numbers to larger numbers,
But I mean, in theory, you could just always roll a D6 or 8, and then you would be adding smaller numbers if you didn't break it down, you know what I mean? Like instead of rolling a 20 and then making the 18 a 3, you could roll a 6 and the 3's a 3.
I'd put money on it that someone, I don't know how many people listen to the podcast, but someone is going to know the answer to why that's wrong. I have no idea why that's wrong, but I know there's something about it that's like there's math things, there's reasons for mathing, but
which would explain why I don't get it, because I am not a math guy.
I only have instincts. My instincts say there's a reason that they do all that stuff.
Yeah.
That these numbers we roll on the D6 translate to pluses because it goes from here into skills. All right. So these are just attributes up at the top.
Okay.
Then you get to pick skills. You get to pick which skills you want your character to be good at. And they call this I forget there's a name for it. But anyway, when you pick your skills, it gives you an additional bonus to that role. So let's say you're trying to be dishonest with somebody, right? You're trying to lie. So that would be charisma. Okay. That's what they would call it in D&D. The rule would say roll your charisma bonus. But do you also have deception as a skill? If you have deception as a skill, you get an additional +2 bonus. So let's say you had an 18 +3 originally for charisma. You get an additional +2, so that's +5. All right, I just rolled an 11. +5 is 16. So an 11, if I had a 10 in charisma and no skill for deception, that would just be an 11,
Right.
I feel like I'm explaining this a way that actually possibly the most confusing way it's ever been explained.
I'm actually kind of following it. I'm not going to lie.
Are you? Maybe this is for you. I think it's, like we're the two interacting.
It's always for me.
Okay, good. Yeah. But because maybe afterwards you'll be like, oh, I get D&D now.
Those who do the podcast will return after this short message. Stick around. You dig?
Since you're here, I think you'll also enjoy the podcast Drinking with Jen, with me, your host, Ginny Preem. Now, don't be fooled by the catchy name. My show delivers personal growth chats over drinks of any kind. Drinking with Jen is inspiring and will empower you with knowledge through 3 different types of episodes: intimate and vulnerable chats with me, episodes with inspiring guests sharing their stories of overcoming adversity, as well as in-depth conversations with expert guests, such as psychologists, psychotherapists, and even a former FBI agent, to bring you credible resources and information on those tough topics like narcissism and trauma recovery. You can tune into weekly episodes of Drinking with Gin on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And please don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and hang out with me over on Instagram, Ginny Preem, in between episodes.
So to kind of go back real quick to when you first get your character, you've built your character. When you were talking about the balanced, where it's balanced across the board, are you allowed, kind of like you do in video games, to you have that balance? Can you shift stuff? And so you can give up points to other places to have, so it's a lot like, and that's where I can understand it a little bit when you're building a character on whether it's Madden or whether it's Fable.
It is identical to Madden. I'm not kidding. It's identical to Madden.
It makes sense. It makes sense then. I mean, I haven't played Madden in a long time because Madden's really fast now, and I don't have the reflexes for it. But yeah, but Fable, I played Fable. I played Diablo, stuff like that. Yeah.
Elden Ring?
No, I haven't, but I've seen it. But I've also heard it's really hard.
Yeah, I haven't played Diablo or Elden Ring or Fable.
Oh, wow. So. Fable 1 and 2 are amazing. Diablo 1 and 2 are amazing, but I don't know about 3. I can't remember. So that makes me kind of understand that the basically the sliding scale process if you don't roll for everything. That makes a lot of sense to me.
So I feel the opposite. I love rolling because I feel like I like chaos to a certain extent, not in my personal life, but I like it a lot in, where there's no stakes, right?
Right.
I like chaos because it's safe and it's a great way to explore being a more chaotic person while I make conservative choices in the real world, right?
Sure.
So when I start, I roll. I love rolling because I feel like that is the beginning. It's like, having the sex, to create the baby, right? The rolling is, I see the shape of this person because you can roll poorly. You could roll 4 ones. Okay.
Oh, wow.
You could. And then you drop the lowest score and then they have a 3. That's their score. A 3.
So how do you, if something like that happens, how do you move forward?
Oh, you fucking embrace it. Oh my God, you embrace it. Okay, what is this person who I'm inventing right now? I'm in the process of inventing this person. What is he fucking terrible at? What is he the worse than anybody has ever been at? Which one? Charisma? Is he like, does he say the wrong thing every single time? You know, is it intelligence? Is he dumb as a brick, but hits like a brick? Right? Is it strength? Is he like, you know, I don't know, who's a really skinny, weak person? Think of somebody. I can't think of anybody right now. But
No, it's Steve Rogers before he became Captain America.
yes, that's great. Yes. Is it pre-Captain America, Captain America? So like that is the fun of creating a character is like, this is an imperfect creature. How are they going to be imperfect that I relate to, that I can invest in to essentially write a character?
So what if, and I know that this is pretty much mathematically impossible, but it's also possible, you roll ones for everything.
Well, the DM would let you re-roll.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, no one is that mean. And there's only, I mean, when I say chaos, I mean safe chaos. You know, I mean chaos with like, you know, a net to catch you from not wanting to die.
Well, I suppose that wouldn't be fun for anyone else other than watching you, the misery of you doing it, like the process of it happening. It wouldn't be fun for anybody else to play because you just die right away.
You know, I don't think you would die right away. Well, maybe you would actually, because every roll would be a minus, you know?
Die from a sneeze, I think, with it that low, couldn't you?
It's quite possible. Yeah,
Like
it's possible.
He sneezed and broke his back.
Well, it would be really funny to have all those terrible attributes and be like a barbarian or something. You know, to have like this nebbish, really like tiny Steve Rogers person run up and just start swinging at people. It would be very funny. I'm in a rage now.
You're gonna be sorry.
So, but you see, hold on. So we just said there's no way you can do that. Two of the players at this table that are building characters are going to do that now. Right?
Right.
You know what I mean? Right. So like you can make a character from anything. You can. And rolling. So the way I like to think about it is like when you're writing, there are people who, when they write, they think that they're the ones building. It's like, I've got this very, you know, cerebral, very like A-type personality. I'm very much the opposite. I like to take inspiration from, you know, what's happening. So I'll let those numbers dictate I'll put them around and place them in things. And then I'll check the classes, right? So there's race and then class. Class is the type of warrior you're going to be. Are you going to be a wizard who casts spells? Are you going to be a barbarian who doesn't wear armor, only a loincloth, and it just runs around smashing things when they get mad? Are you going to be a fighter who's very skilled, was in the army, etc., and so forth? Are you going to be a warlock who's made an evil pact with a demonic or devil fiend? Or what else is there? Like the main ones: wizard, warlock, sorcerer, similar to warlock, or rogue, which is essentially like the most skilled party member at all these sort of cunning, stealthful, you know, deception, stealing, not getting noticed, that sort of thing, like a thief. So like, you know, the numbers give you the attributes. The attributes, once you've put them where you're kind of feeling, you know, or what, you know, what you're being inspired by, what's resonating for you in distribution of those, it'll lend itself toward a certain class. You know, I feel like I want this guy to have high charisma. All right, well, let's make him a bard who's got like a really, you know, happening person. A bard plays music to do their magic. Or it could be stand-up comedy, you know. It could be a failed stand-up comic who left the big city because he couldn't afford parking anywhere.
I feel attacked. I feel personally attacked. I mean, it wasn't even veiled, so I don't know why I'm even trying to make a joke out of it.
But like, honestly, that's a really great story for a character. Like, went to the big city to be a comic and didn't try. Just like, right. You know, got a job in the club, maybe. People
doorman.
Yeah. Yeah. But like, it turns out he was a really good comic, and here's a representation of that. You know, he's now a bard who's going out to help the world and bring his stand-up comedy wherever he goes, and to literally physically attack people with it. So,
I mean,
It's kind of what you're doing now, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you ain't far off. I mean, that's comedy's nothing but a defense mechanism. Really.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. But so character can come from anywhere. It can come from your own personal experience. It can come from rolling I get inspired by rolling the dice, because then I think well, what am I feeling? What am I feeling? What am I feeling? What am I feeling up to tonight? Do I want to punch people, or do I want to sing to them?
Yeah. I mean, I get it. I get it. You're more of a process guy.
I think so.
Of the game. Like you enjoy the process of building the character, not like, oh, I'm just going to say what it is. You enjoy the process of the creation, which I would think would be a huge part of the appeal to the game.
It is
that character creation. But I suppose maybe some people just like to, I just want to get into it. I want to dive right in and get the game. They're the same people that skip all the cutscenes.
Yeah.
In the video games.
I skip them after I played the game once or twice, but
yeah.
But that's only I enjoy. I
want the story. Yeah, I want the story. And that game was $80. I'm going to play every minute of it, including the cutscenes, and I might even watch the credits, just because that was an expensive game.
Yeah. So. Well, there are all different types of players too. There are players like what you're talking about. They could care less about feeling anything. They want to build an optimized version who's going to wreck people's shit in the game. They want to rock this game. The game for them is much more like a video game, and it's about maximizing their ability to do whatever the talent or quality is that character has. They want to maximize that. And everybody does want the same thing to a certain extent, but there's players who that's all they do, and they just want to get in. They want to fight. They want to throw fists, and they want to steal things. And I respect that 100%. There's no wrong way to play Dungeons and Dragons.
Right.
Like when they were saying, you're doing it wrong, man. I don't know, dude. The person who really gets into the personality and just fucking around as this new person, those are my favorite.
Well, and I want to be fair. I have a habit of, I'll carry a lot of stuff into something with me. They may not have actually been saying you're doing it wrong, but in my head, that's what I was hearing.
Yeah.
I felt very out of place. I felt I was very uncomfortable because it was so far outside of my comfort zone that I didn't have. Now, if we would have had this conversation prior to me playing, I think I would have understood a lot better exactly what was happening, because when they're telling me to roll stuff, I'm just looking at Tony going, I roll now? He's like, yeah, just because they were using I was using the app.
Oh yeah. D&D Beyond.
Yeah. But I real quick created the character on there, and then it was doing everything for me. So I would roll it, and then I'm like, what does this mean? I didn't understand, and I didn't understand what I was rolling for. When they said roll this for this, I didn't know what I was trying to do.
Yeah.
And since I didn't have any point of reference for what skills actually existed, I didn't even know what choices I was making.
Yeah, so the only thing you could do was role play a personality, because you didn't understand the mechanics of it. So you were you embraced. It sounds like in a very positive way. You embraced the one element you did understand, which was that you're playing someone that's not you.
Right. Which some people would argue was the entirety of my college career. But man, I did not know who the fuck I was. I'm telling you that right now.
Yeah.
But so it is. Yeah. And to be fair to everybody that I was playing with, they didn't have the time that we have right now to go into the weeds on what exactly it was. So basically, it was just my opportunity to watch a campaign get played and kind of participate in it. So I was probably a little hard on them for the sake of comedy when I was like, "You're doing it wrong." But that was my bullshit that I carried in there, I think.
No, forever they did that. Fuck them. So I'm with you. Don't worry, I got your back, bro. I'm gonna call David right after this and be like, yo, fuck you. Also, Tony, fuck you.
I guarantee you, all you got to do is say his name. He's paying attention.
Exactly. Honestly, the more we talk about him, the better.
Yeah. Anytime he gets recognized or acknowledged, he's on top of it. I promise.
It's called Insta-Human or something. They have that up if there's an afterlife, right?
Oh yeah,
Insta-Human
absolutely.
Oh, I wonder what they're doing down there. Just scrolling when he's tagged.
The internet works perfectly well up there, I think.
Oh yeah. Oh, I like that. That's cool.
Yeah, any worry that he would be forgotten, I think, is ridiculous because he'll do something to remind us.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll probably get struck by lightning or something and be like, I know who caused this. So that's kind of the quick and dirty, if we're not missing anything, of creating a character.
Yeah, and the only thing I want to say about that, one other thing is just that creating the character is the first opportunity to really start building the reality for yourself. The game's not going to feel real if you don't invest some time and energy into it. And the character is the best way to care about what the character is going through, is to care about the character first.
Sure.
And so building it, that's how you begin to care. You spend time doing it. It doesn't matter how much time, or it doesn't matter how much you care at that point, because if you've spent an hour figuring this out and writing character bio and doing whatever, you're going to care a little bit that this thing you just spent an hour on doesn't immediately get killed.
Right.
So it sets up the barest of stakes for an engagement and to enjoy the game.
Right. So you don't just Leroy Jenkins your way into there, and that's the
Which
end
most
of it.
people do, by the way. Most people do. I mean, so let's be clear. Like, that's also a valid choice. But you Leroy Jenkins that shit and you die, you're going to feel something.
Right.
You're going to feel something. Might not be good. I did that. By the way, hold on. Let me be clear here. First D&D game I played, first one I played, I Leroy Jenkins, which I think is just running in there and yelling your name and just being an idiot.
Pretty
right?
much. Yeah.
Okay. So I did that and got killed in one of my first games ever. So, like, does it happen? Yes. Did I do it? Yes. And I felt things. Holy shit, did I feel things. There's no better way to love D&D than to die in your first session you're playing ever.
So does anyone play with like ultimate stakes of once the character is dead, the character is dead forever?
Hell yes, they do. I do.
Yeah?
Yes. I mean, now, okay, the campaign where I died, there are ways to bring people back to life in D&D, but they are very difficult to do. So this was I just joined this group not that long ago. We played in person, and they made the entire campaign about resurrecting my character that had died.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So they changed the entire story that they started with to that. And during that period, I played another character who came along. I like to base mine sometimes off of real characters from media that we're all aware of, or it helps me have an in. So, Jeff Spicoli from Fast Times.
Yeah.
I played like a little hobbit, like a Samwise Gamgee of Jeff Spicoli from Fast Times at Richmond High. That was the character we went around trying to resurrect my original character with. So yeah, and death is good. It's good. To die is good. It creates, a reality. If you can't die, it doesn't feel that scary, in my opinion.
Well, and that makes sense. You need stakes. Without stakes, what are you going to do?
I'm pretty sure that's how God built life. Like, life is just another, D&D. It's like D&D, but for people who know more than us. You know what I mean?
I mean, I definitely rolled mostly ones.
That's what I was going to say. What's your lowest stat? What's your lowest stat? Yeah. Mine is definitely intelligence, brother.
Oh, God. My lowest stat would have to be maybe dexterity. What is dexterity? Is that like coordination and stuff?
Yeah. It's like acrobatics. It's like gymnastics,
Yeah, I would be very not high on dexterity.
But dexterity can also mean like your hands, like how good you are at piano, or like lock picking, or so like you could still have a high dexterity, but it's only here,
I almost reverted to childishness and made a very inappropriate joke.
Yeah, no.
I would like to roll for bigger wiener, please.
Exactly. Me too. Oh man, I don't know which attribute that is though.
It's not strength, because all the big strong guys are just hiding it. So
that's right. That's right.
They're overcompensating.
That's right. God damn it.
If only there was an exercise. There's not.
There's nothing.
No matter what you see on late night television, there is not an exercise.
There's no exercise. Nothing you can buy. Nothing you can do.
No pill. You just you better roll for charisma.
Luckily, I didn't do too terribly in charisma. I'll trick you. That's how.
Yeah,
I'm cool.
Look over here. No, over here. Don't look down there.
No. Oh man. But so like I do think death is the end of life.
Right.
In real life. So I don't know. I'm not saying. Listen, D&D is. It is not. I don't take it seriously. I don't. I mean, I take it seriously insofar as like, when you're having an interaction with an NPC, non-player character, that means you're talking to the GM. And when you're talking with another PC, which is one of the other players with you, the players are going to want different things than you want. So technically, the stakes in that moment are, I want to do this thing. These other players want to do this thing. Can I convince them to do the thing I want to do? Mm-hmm. So, and that's a real interaction. You're really trying to convince your friends to do the thing. It's like, should we go out for ice cream, or should we go to a movie, or should we go spray paint the Quickie Mart? It's like, that's real. Those are real interactions. So oftentimes as a dungeon master, my favorite moments, the moments where I grab popcorn and eat it like Michael Jackson in the theater, are when they're arguing about what to do next.
Yeah.
Because they mean it. These are real arguments.
Right.
I've seen people get mad. I've seen people yell at each other. I've seen people storm out. I've seen people hold grudges for weeks. Because it's a real, even if what they're arguing about, none of it's real, the argument is real, right? They're really fucking arguing. They're yelling at each other. They're mad that one won't listen to the other. That seems real to me.
How often do people bring their bullshit into the game?
You mean like personal issues that they have, or fights they have with other players?
I mean, yes and yes, but like,
yeah.
Like, how often does it bleed into the game? And
every single game. Every single game. Yeah.
So as the dungeon master, you said you love chaos. So do you let it
safe chaos?
Do you let it kind of fester and go its own way, or do you like, I gotta fucking chill this thing out a little bit?
It's like, how fucked up are you?
Yeah.
How much do you embrace the fucked up boundaries and systems that exist in these friendships? And I mean, as far as, oh my God, that's a really good question. That's a phenomenal. My hat's off to you. What a good fucking question. I'm a big people pleaser. So that makes me a very good dungeon master. Because I really care about people feeling safe. But I also really enjoy people squirming. So like, you know what I mean? Like, okay, I'll tell you a story from the last game. There was a kid who was possessed by a locket. All right. I'm not going to name which campaign because I don't want to spoil, but it's also, we could get into campaigns too and how to write them and how to deal with them, all that kind of stuff. But he was possessed by a locket. And the only way they had defeated the monster that came out of the locket, a la Harry Potter, right? With the Horcruxes and like the snake monsters and shit like that. So they defeated the monster physically, but the boy was still possessed. And the monster retreated in the locket. And they figured out that the only way to probably, this was a guess, to stop the possession was to murder the little boy. So like, they're all lawful good, but one of them was like, guys, we can't murder a little boy. What the fuck are you doing? This isn't Dungeons and Dragons. What is wrong with you? You're a bunch of sadists. You're fucked up. Like, felt really uncomfortable, right? Because it was like, not only was he doing that in character, but he's also like, how am I going to feel about myself if in this make-believe game we murder a child? Like, I don't know that I'm going to feel okay with this later. And right, so like, what if? Okay, I'll finish the story. Then I'm going to ask a couple questions about that. Anyway, so he turns around while they murder the little boy, so he doesn't look at it. They drown this child in a water barrel. They drown the child in a water barrel.
Oh, they didn't even make it painless.
Nope.
Oh, God.
Then they bring him back to life immediately because you can heal someone. They get death saves. There's like there's mechanics around dying, right?
Okay.
But the boy is free of the possession. Now, how do I feel, right? When you were asking me like, how am I as a DM? How do I handle this, right? Yeah. If I was evil, I would say, the boy's still possessed. Everything's still terrible. He's, like you did nothing. Or I'd be like, you can't bring the boy back. The demonic possession caused it, so he can't be healed. And the demon still is possessing the child, or something. Like I could have been super, right? I could have played that like 50 different ways to be super fucked up and make them feel bad. But I did what I felt was right in that moment, particularly considering how the stakes were already high because this character didn't even want to fucking do anything like that. And I just, I'm a decent DM. And I made it so that hard choice they made meant something, right? They succeeded at their task. He was no longer possessed. The demon was stuck in the locket, and they could all feel comfortable that they hadn't just murdered a boy, right?
But the child remembered everything.
The child did remember everything.
Oh, no.
Absolutely. I mean, it's got to be fun.
Why the hell did they pick drown him in a water barrel? That says a lot more about them than the actual murder of the child.
Well, they thought about it for a while, but once you get to a level where people are like uncomfortable discussing it, they're like, someone just makes an act. They're just like, you know what? Fuck it. We can't talk about this anymore. Let's just do it. Yeah. But I mean, so yeah, and it worked, and then everybody was happy, and the boy was happy. The boy, you know, technically was possessed by a demon, so it wasn't his experience, right? It was the demon who had that drowning experience, thankfully.
If you say so.
Yeah, exactly. But like, so that argument though made that moment feel really real. You know what I mean? Because this one character was like, "No, I'm dead set against it." So it's the choices we make, and if it becomes important to us, how does it become real to us? The time and energy we invest into it. And these arguments, these conversations, these like, what do I care about? What do you care about? Why do you care about it? Why do you care about it? These moments are the things that make D&D feel real, not the story. The story, almost, in my opinion, I know this is sad, but it doesn't matter because it's about how people relate to it, not some story being epic and grand and amazing. Right. The story is epic and grand and amazing when the characters fully give themselves to the situation and it feels real to them.
You know, and I would have said, you know, in the past, well, nobody's really going to have that strong of a belief that they're going to turn their character around, that it's wrong because they know it's make-believe. But I played Cards Against Humanity with a gal who refused to vote for any card combination that was a joke about children.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, I get it, you know, because it's inappropriate to joke about children. It's inappropriate to joke about children being hurt or blah, blah. It's like, dude, this is a game that has a card about Pac-Man guzzling cum. All right. If you don't know what game you're playing, but that was her stance.
Yeah, it's a boundary, right? Technically.
So very easily in a game where you're actually somewhat inhabiting the behaviors of these characters, it does make sense that, and I would call it true, that someone could make that choice and say, no, I'm making a stand here. I will not do that choice, rather than, oh, dude, guys, it's just make believe, kill the kid, you know? Yeah.
Well, and people do go there. People do go there, though. They go there too. There's like, what does it fucking matter? Come on, let's just move on. What they don't get is like, this is a real moment. This is a real moment. No, there's no kid. There's none of this is happening. But this disagreement is real.
Yeah.
This is a real disagreement. So I don't know that I'd want to play with anybody who's like, well, just do it because this isn't real, and then we'll go on to the next thing. Yeah, the next thing that also isn't real. I don't want to play with you now. You know, like, if you're gonna make this all fake and focus on it being fake, so there are no real stakes, then what's the fun in playing it? I agree. You know? The antithesis, the argument to that though is that the thing that makes it feel real for people is all different, right? Oh, so for the guy who says that, he's like, I'm tired of arguing about this thing that doesn't actually matter to me. Like I gave it 5 minutes, but that's a lot of time for an argument for people who aren't into that. They're like, I want to go roll dice and hit shit. Because that's what makes it feel real for them, the video game actions of hitting shit. So this is something I wanted to discuss too, actually. I mean, I didn't know what we were going to discuss. But one of the things that I thought is really important to know is every player is different. Every player likes different elements of the game, generally speaking. Like I was for a while, I was running like 3 games, a Dungeon Master for 3 games. It was too much, so I'm only running 1 right now. But I'm playing in 2 others as a player. But when I was running all those games, in each of those games, everybody had a different interest. There was the guy who always played a rogue, who loves having all the skills to add those numbers to their attributes because they love rolling. They love rolling and accomplishing tasks and using this character they built up through time. Because right when you gain levels, you get to, add stuff to your character each level that you go up. They're like, I want to use those to help the team to succeed at whatever task we choose we want to do as a group. Right?
How do you gain levels?
Every game you play, you get a certain amount of experience. Every DM has the choice of doing it by milestone, which is when you reach a certain point in their story, the story they're telling, you get to gain a level, and he just tells you to go up. The other one is XP. Every time you fight someone or have an interaction with someone, which could just be talking, you don't have to like fight everything. You can talk your way out of a lot of stuff in D&D. You get experience for talking your way out of stuff, for succeeding at being charismatic with someone. There's a word for it. I'm not remembering right now, but it's like encounter.
Do you roll for the experience?
No, it's just something assigned to you based on the level of difficulty of who you were fighting or the level of difficulty of what you were doing, right? Like stealing the crown jewels from the Bank of England would be like a lot of experience, but like stealing a lighter from a 7-Eleven would be a little experience.
Right. And that is that experience assigned by the Dungeon Master?
It is.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
Yeah. So, and it's all based on that level of difficulty.
Okay.
Oftentimes I wing it to where it, what I like to do is I run modules from Dungeons and Dragons, ones that are like published by Dungeons and Dragons, like Curse of Strahd, Waterdeep, Dungeon of the Mad Mage, stuff like that. And I rewrite them extensively. So I go in there and I use the nuts of it, and then I rewrite and I read tremendous amounts of literature of people who have rewritten these modules to be better.
Okay.
What their flaws are, to improve them. I read them all, and then I do my own Frankenstein of that.
So you kind of use it as an outline, and then you build around. Got it. Cool. Okay. I didn't realize that was a thing, but that actually makes a lot more sense to me.
Yeah, you can run it right out of the book, but it's like this might sound crazy. I'm really not that creative. Like when it comes to writing, I'm like not. So I love going to all these people who've done it 10 times and taking their most creative ideas and just putting them in. Because the creative parts that I participate in that I'm best at are engaging with the players as NPCs and having them engage with the world. Like everybody's got their different strengths.
I'm learning so much. Like it's
I feel like you should play again now and see what it's like.
I think it would be completely different. I really do. The bad thing about it is I've always said I don't need another thing. It's like I don't need.
Well, you're about to get one, motherfucker.
I don't need another hobby. None of my hobbies are producing right now, and they take up a lot of time. So I don't need another hobby that won't do a thing. And honestly, around here, like it would have to be like an online thing because around here nobody plays. Like it's.
Where are you at?
Waterloo, Iowa. So it's like northeast Iowa. North of Cedar Rapids. It's just and so it's one of those things too. Like I really always loved coming out to visit because I was around my people. When I was with Tony, like him and all of his friends were my people then because we had similar interests, and it was refreshing to leave here and go out there to be around people that had similar interests. We had lots to talk about. Here it just really isn't that. I mean, coming back to this town when I did, it was just like all the same people, never left, doing all the same things, hanging out with all the same people. Socializing here is eating or drinking. Nobody really has hobbies. It's really small.
Kids sports too? Do they start getting obsessed with their kids sports? Or no?
Yeah, they all, a lot of them have kids in sports. I had kids, so I've had 2 rounds of kids. I have the boys are 27 and 24 this next month. And then my girls are 11 next month and 8.
Dude.
Yeah, so
that's phenomenal.
Yeah, so right about the time we could have had freedom, we make terrible life choices. So right about the time we could have had freedom, we started having kids again. Yeah. And so with the boys, a lot of our friends had kids of similar age. Now, because we started again a little later, which isn't late by LA standards, but by Midwestern standards, it's certainly later. None of our friends have kids.
Yeah.
Like we're the only ones with kids. So like we've gone to great pains to like my youngest daughter does gymnastics and that's it. And my oldest daughter has chosen music. Like that's what she chose to do and she's loves it. And so, but we don't have to do soccer. We don't have to do t-ball. We don't have to do any of that stuff. So I don't really experience that a whole lot. But from what I've seen on the book face and whatnot, the people traveling all over the Midwest for travel teams and going to just basically living vicariously through their kids. And it's like, yeah, I don't want to do that either. Like, I love my kids, but I want to have hobbies, and I just, there's not a lot of people that I have stuff to talk about with around here. So would be a good thing for me to get involved in, because it would be like-minded people, but it's just like, God damn, another thing,
right.
Yeah. I definitely would definitely try it again. Like, especially if I ever come back out there, I think it would be worth sitting down and trying it again, just out of curiosity after being a little bit more educated.
Well, I have to tell you, so speaking of the types of players, you strike me as the shit stirrer. Like, which is a specific thing that certain players enjoy. They love stirring up shit and watching people react to it, right? Like, I had this one character who, but in a fun way. This is not like a shitty way.
Yeah.
Well, especially when players are new, they're like, all right, so I do this thing, right? Because they're like, well, it doesn't matter. But, like, it does matter, right? So they learn quickly that their actions have consequences, right? Like a child learning that when you punch the guy who owns the bar, all the people in the bar stand up and they're going to try and beat the shit out of you. Yes, you can murder them all, but then you'll be arrested. Right. Like, these are real things that have,
Right.
And and then there's another guy who loves doing annoying voices. So, and he's always, even if he builds a character not to be the face of the party, he can't help but be the leader face of the party.
Right.
Just because that's his personality. So, the shit stirrers I am the most entertained by the shit stirrers as someone who's running a story.
Right. So I love them. How do you make that transition from playing to Dungeon Master?
It's just, I spent a lot of money.
Yeah. Oh, it's like podcasting. I get it. All right.
Exactly. It is exactly like podcasting. Well, like, for me to feel comfortable to do it, I had to spend a ton of money on, there was this thing called, I forget the name of it, but Matthew Lillard, you know that actor?
Yeah.
Matthew Lillard. He runs a D&D company that builds essentially props for D&D games. So one of the early ones was for Waterdeep Dragon Heist. And it is, one second, let me see. It's very heavy. Oh. It is. Oh, yeah, it says it right here. What is it? No, it doesn't say. Oh, Beetle and Grimm. Anyway, this thing is massive. It is like, look, that's the size of my head.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. It's huge.
You read, it's a book? You read that?
No, it's not a book. No,
okay.
It's filled with props.
Oh, okay.
And
like
prop letters and like little, it gave all these little minis.
Okay. Yeah.
Like the things that you use to, essentially fight.
Sure.
Right. And in D&D, you use these little boards that have squares, and each square represents 5 feet.
Oh, okay.
So it gives you all the things they're going to fight. It gives you easy reference character cards for, honestly, it makes it so anybody can DM because it gives you every tool you'll need to feel prepared to run the game for other people. And so, it was like $500. And I was like, fuck.
In the grand scheme of things.
No, $500 like 10 years ago.
Oh.
Exactly. It's like $1,000 today. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah. Oh. Right.
I did go to, they took me to a store. Where was that? Like West Hollywood, maybe? That sold. We went the same time we went to Republic of Pie. And it's
North Hollywood.
North Hollywood. Okay, yeah. Where there's a store there that sells all of that stuff, and then there's like an area upstairs to play. And
I think it's called Geeky Tees.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Yep. And I was just blown away, because in the comic book shops and stuff around here sell some of that stuff, but nothing like that place. That place was just wall to wall, and it was kind of cool. Like, I had no desire to buy anything, but I sure liked looking at everything.
Yeah.
And I
have a friend who drops in there whenever he's nearby. And drops like $100, $200, like every single time. It's almost like an addiction.
Yeah.
Like, there's one friend, if he watches this, which he might, he'll know I'm talking about him. You might have an addiction. We might need to do an intervention. So, but no, his whole house has he's got thousands. Actually, he's the greatest. He's amazing. So, but yeah, he's got thousands of it. So some people are in it for that, or like they're into the things, the little things.
Oh yeah. Yeah. They're super detailed. They're cool looking.
They are.
It's great decor if you're into it.
An investment, right? It's all about investment in this reality, right? That it has, not that it's real, but that it has meaning,
Is there a trade? Do people sell their stuff, their figures and stuff and trade? And is there any of that kind of like there was with, I think World of Warcraft, like people would develop characters and sell them? And is that a thing or
Not really.
No?
Like maybe like painting the figurines for other people because, people rode low on decks, so they're not very good at doing a little hand painting.
Right.
I
understood that reference.
Ayo. Now, what if you built someone with low decks who was like a master thief, but really bad at it, right? I mean, like that's a pre-built character. Right. You see what I'm saying? Like you could invest yourself in playing that character very easily, couldn't you?
Oh, yeah.
You're like, I mean, and so it's like, that's why the rolling and the stats really help develop a character.
Yeah, because you're able to break into the place. But the minute you have the thing in your hand, it's like,
Exactly.
Planning you're amazing at. Like you're a mastermind, and then you screw it up when it counts.
Technically, the flaw of when you played was only that they didn't show you how to build a character. Because like if you'd known how to build a character, I think you would have been more invested in playing.
Right. Well, I think I would have understood what was happening more because I would have understood what was happening to the character. And I just kind of, and there's just no way they had time for that, because it was the night before I left. So we had eaten or something, and then we all got together afterwards and played, and it was just kind of like, all right, well, we can't be up until 2 because I fly out in the morning, so I think we're up until 1:55.
Yeah, exactly.
So I do. I think it's a lot more interesting when you start understanding it more. So you spent money. Is one way you did got you prepared to be a dungeon master.
And all that did, by the way, all that technically did was made me feel comfortable running a game. It didn't help me run it.
Right.
Not at all. I used maybe half those props total. And what did they do for the other characters? I thought they were nifty, but it didn't necessarily improve the game for them that much.
Right.
So just so you know, spending a bunch of money, all it will do is make you feel safer.
Yeah.
But it's false. It's a false sense of safety.
Well, I think a lot of people, money makes them more confident.
That's true. That is true.
There might be a guy wandering around out there right now that's got a lot of money and high confidence and very little intelligence or dexterity.
Low strength below the belt.
Yes. Yeah. Speaking
high confidence. Yeah.
Speaking of mushrooms,
exactly.
So you start mastering the dungeons, right? Mm-hmm. So when you're running a game, you've already said you like a little bit of safe chaos. You like to see people. What I'm gathering from you is you like to see people enjoy the game they're playing.
Yeah.
You're not the stereotypical television dungeon master that is out to like simply be in control. That's not.
No.
And that's probably.
I'm actually the opposite.
Right.
I'm the opposite.
And is that a common thing or is it a trope that we see?
It's a common thing.
That people want to see people fail or that people want to see people enjoy the game?
Oh, I thought you meant like the control freak.
Yeah, that's what I meant. That's a common thing?
Yeah, it's a pretty common thing. Yeah, because they're putting the most time and energy into it.
Right.
So how could they not be attached to some sort of outcome within what they might predict? Right? Because they're like, well, I prepared all these potential outcomes.
Right.
Because this is the main problem with being a dungeon master is there's only so much you can prep. Mm-hmm. Right. And if the players, which they honestly are supposed to be able to at any time, if they go to a direction that you haven't prepped, you're like, well, fuck me then. All right. I guess we'll have to play again next week because I have no idea what to do next.
So is that what you do? You like hit pause and go prepare more?
No, I like it when they go do that. See, that's the difference is I prep so much. Not that I know every possibility, but I prep so much that I hate everything I prepped. Like I hate it because I'm like, I have done so much work. I am offended by the level and amount of work I have done. Fuck everything I did. I like what you're doing right now. Let's do that. So I kind of just embrace that, like, people's independence.
I suppose once you put it in their hands, you don't have to work as hard. Once you've done all the prep, now it's like you're saying, okay, now go. You guys are going to live in this world. I'll just basically keep you to the rules of this world, but my feelings aren't going to be hurt by which direction you go.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
So the people that are the control freaks, do they make it more about them than they do about what's happening? then?
I don't know. I really don't, because I don't relate to it.
Yeah.
I don't think I can really, I mean, I see what the choices they make, like they resist the choices the players want to make. That's what I would say. And through that resistance, with the clear resistance, make their feelings known that they'd prefer something else.
Right.
I think I do that sometimes too, but I only do that when I feel like someone's going to really get themselves hurt.
Right.
I want them to know there's a good chance they're going to die if they do that. Because like, if they're not aware that they could die and then they die, they'll be like, why didn't you warn me? It's like, well, I did kind of say, are you sure? Are you sure? Like that's the level of boundary I love to give people. Not because of my story though, just because of what I think might upset them.
Right.
I think people get attached to a story they want to tell and they forget that this isn't an individual tale.
Right.
This is a collaborative story. And if it only matters to the individual teller, then you're fucking missing the point. Right. The point is everybody feels like it's real. But there is one other thing I want to tell you, because I think this is the problem most DMs and players run into when they're all newer, is like DMs get attached to telling a story. Right?
Sure.
And they're like, well, I'm going to spend all this time and all this energy. I want to tell the story I want to tell. This story is for the DM, like the player is, like the character is for the player, right? The character they built. But if you're building a story, be careful, because it is not your story. It is not your story. It is the player's story. And you are facilitating the players experiencing their story. I mean, you're definitely setting up events for the players to interact with. But if you have like this is what's going to happen, so this will happen, and this will be the thing, I think you're just setting yourself up for failure. So if you want to be a dungeon master, remember you're a facilitator who is collaboratively telling a story.
Right. Because the story, I mean, is kind of organic.
It should be. Yeah. Because that's if it's organic, to the players, they will know they can affect this reality. Right. And if they can affect the reality, it feels more real for them. Right. If they can't, then it's just a fucking story. Look, Neverending Story did it best. All right. When that kid is reading the book and he starts reading about himself, if only Bastion would believe, then all would be well. Who the fuck doesn't cry when that happens? Who the fuck? You tell me, show me someone who doesn't cry when Bastion realizes he's affecting the story. I'll show you someone without a soul. Yeah. All right. Because like, I don't know. Isn't that what we all want? Like we all want to be able to affect our own story, like as humans.
Yeah. Right.
So what is the point of D&D also is one thing I wanted to mention, which I think is stories make us feel like the world existence has meaning.
Sure.
We can't know that existence has meaning. It could all be black, right? We could die. It could all be black. There could be no meaning. It could be, a biological mishap billions of years ago that gave us sentience, or there could be meaning.
Right.
And I think stories are how we understand meaning. Right? Stories give us meaning. They make us feel like the world has meaning. Their stories are sort of inherently hopeful, even the depressing stories, because that story had meaning and affected us. Like synchronicity, serendipity, it had some sort of meaning in our life. So collaborative storytelling is finding meaning together, is what I would. So Dungeons & Dragons is really about having a meaningful experience with a group of like-minded people. That's my opinion.
And that makes sense to me, because it is so built upon people having a group to play with.
Community.
Yeah, there aren't many things that are like that. I mean, even if you're playing video games, it's 1v1 for the most part, unless you're playing like Call of Duty or something like that, but that's a whole different.
It's competitive gaming. It's to win. To win is the point. Which people and D&D, there are people in D&D who play it that way, and that's fine too. That gives them fulfillment and meaning, but I'm not one of those people.
Now are there like tournaments? Like D&D tournaments? D&D like...
I think there are, but they kind of make no sense to me at all.
Right.
It's like, who had the most fun here? I want to know.
Right.
Statistically.
Right.
Who really was real?
Right.
Who really behaved in a real way?
Well, and it's like, just because you're the last one alive doesn't mean you win. Maybe the guy who gave maybe part of the story was one of you has to die. Isn't that the guy who won? Because he's the one who made it so that you could finish the story. I guess, yeah, it's so story driven that it would be hard to have some kind of a tournament. But it's like every time you ever been to a comic book convention?
I just went to Comic-Con, yeah.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah, I loved it.
Oh
Really,
man,
very fun.
someday.
Dude.
I mean, I've been to a ton of Wizard Worlds. When it was before it was Fan Expo. Been to Dragon Con twice, but there's always a room, like a gaming room, and that always blows my mind because it's like you're gonna pay all this money to come to this convention for an entire weekend and spend it all in that room.
That is really fascinating. I had not really thought about that. You're right.
I mean,
no, you're right, dude.
But that goes to show how deep the connection is between people and these games. Is there's all this going on around outside of them, and sometimes it's kind of frustrating because it's like this is your opportunity to socialize with your peers. You may not have that at home. You may be socially awkward and struggle and not be around people that share your views.
In Iowa.
Yeah, in Iowa. Yeah, Wisconsin, Minnesota, either the
Waterloo.
Dakotas. Yeah, I can pretty much anywhere that the planes don't land is pretty much where it is, but it's like you see that and you're like, oh, that's too bad. Like you could be out here, to bring it down to its most base, like you could be out here getting laid. There's something for everybody here, so but it does speak to how important those games are to people in that they will go to these huge events and spend the whole time in the gaming room or the gaming on the gaming floor or whatever.
Yeah.
Really is important to people, and it obviously provides something that all the people making, you did G&D joke people don't understand. They just don't understand. And that's one of the reasons I really wanted to talk about this is because it is a lifestyle. It is a community. It's a culture. Yeah. And I don't think a lot of people understand that. I don't think they understand how much goes into it and how important it is to people.
I don't think they understand why either. Yeah. I think people think like they want to fantasize that they're a hero. And yeah, like that's cool. Like, yeah, I want to save people. I want to be good. I want to do good things. I want to do things I couldn't do in my real world, right? Even me, I said like, I like a safe amount of chaos to play that way because I like being that way without the consequences in the real world, right? Right. Like, I'm not going to go up and punch some dude who's running around the streets with I might, but I actually don't want to be in that situation at all. But if I was, I might. We'll see. Right.
I don't know.
Do I want to do that? I don't know. I mean, I'd like to think I would, right? But who knows when you're in that situation? But in these other worlds, you can make those choices and suffer the consequences, but the consequences still feel like consequences, And I just think if more people knew it was about community and fucking around, without, and just having it be a story that you're building together. It's so different than what I think people perceive. They think of LARPing, live action role playing, which is people hitting each other, which I'm like, I couldn't be further from that. And I judge that as much as others judge me. You know what I mean? Like, so we're all on the LARP hate train. Yes.
Takes a different kind of animal. To get,
it does.
Yeah, it really does.
And I don't understand that, nor do I want to. And I want to judge it. So I'm going to stick here in not knowing.
Well, I tell you what, I'm going to come up with a LARPer and you can listen to that episode. Because,
okay, great.
Might as well, right? I mean, let's give everybody equal time.
Yeah, I like it. Oh, so the Ghostbusters opinion, right?
Oh, yeah. So people don't know about this. So we started talking about Ghostbusters because behind Mike, he has a Stay Puft Marshmallow Man drink deal, and then he also has the Ghost Trap popcorn dispenser from which theater was running that deal? Because there were two different Ghost Trap.
I think it was AMC.
Okay,
AMC.
That makes sense because we don't have that here.
AMC, please open one in Waterloo.
Yeah, because we have Marcus Cinemas. I don't know if they offered anything.
Marcus is Midwest. Yeah, that's what we had back where I was. Yeah, in Illinois.
Yeah, matter of fact, our other theater. So we had two Marcus theaters here. The other one across town closed. And that was the one in where University of Northern Iowa is. Kids,
oh my God.
Kids just aren't going to the movies, man. They can get everything at home. 2 weeks from now, Deadpool Wolverine will be out to rent for streaming. So it's like people are like, well, I don't want to stick to the floor. I'll just stay at home and watch it here.
They should do something about those sticky floors.
Yeah,
no one likes that.
No, they're turning those theaters over too fast, man. Nobody can go in with a mop.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were talking about this stuff, and Mike says to me, of all people, I have a controversial opinion about Ghostbusters. And I said, okay, I want to hear it, but we have to talk about it on air.
Yeah.
I hope I continue liking you after this. But hit me
most
with
people
it.
don't.
Oh, shit.
So,
okay.
I liked as much as or better.
Oh, no.
Yeah. the female Ghostbusters.
Oh, Mike.
Than the other two new movies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know. It's a rough. Well, hold on. I got another one though. I liked The Hobbit as much, if not better, than Lord of the Rings, the trilogy. Okay. So, I mean, those two alone are sort of like, you think I'd like lying just to get a reaction, but I love Kristen Wiig and Melissa McCarthy. I love them today. I love Leslie. What's her name? I love them all. That blonde lady. She's so funny.
Okay. Let me attack this in two parts. I'm going to attack the Hobbit one first, because I think this is the easiest one to deal with. I think had the Hobbit come out before The Lord of the Rings, people would have went crazy for it. I don't think it has anything to do with the quality of the Hobbit trilogy itself. I think it's just that the Lord of the Rings trilogy was a differently paced movie, and people expected that out of the Hobbit.
Okay, well, that was like the kindest disagreement I've ever heard in my entire life. Like that wasn't. Now I'm not even scared about your part two.
No, because I can also understand why people didn't like. So it came out right when one of my daughters was born. Like the first one came out, and I tried watching it 5 different times, and I fell asleep with her in my arms every single time. Like I just couldn't. I couldn't get invested in it, and I think sometimes I have that issue with prequels, just because it's like, well, I already know how this turns out, and I never read the book. So I wasn't like, oh, I finally get to see this other than in my mind's eye. But I couldn't get into it. And it was paced much slower. For as many jokes as people make about the Lord of the Rings trilogy being a movie about people walking, there are a lot of battles. There's a lot of action. Sure. There's a lot going on. And at the time it came out, technologically, it was so far advanced above everything else that was out at the time. Like it left a mark on people. So I think when The Hobbit came out, people wanted to shit on it just because it wasn't any more or any less technologically advanced, and it was a slower paced movie. So I get the people who say that they don't like it as much, but at the same time, I think there's reasons for that are apparent. If you look past those, then you probably would like it just as much as if not more than the originals. Now...
Do you want me to rebut the Lord of the Rings before you go into part 2?
If you would like to, yeah.
Well, my only rebut is Peter Jackson didn't want to do them. And it was supposed to be, Guillermo del Toro, right? And he backed out just before filming. So Peter Jackson went in there having just done the Lord of the Rings movies. He'd never made anything like that before Lord of the Rings. And he stuffed a shit ton in the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
What I think he improved upon was telling a singular story in The Hobbit over the course of 3 movies. So I thought it was a better told story.
Probably, yeah.
Than Lord of the Rings, but only because the complexity levels were so different. So I guess what I'm saying is it's not that the Hobbit movies are better than the Lord of the Rings movies. The Lord of the Rings movies, I think, are better. But I enjoyed the Hobbit movies more at the time because it was a better story.
Yeah.
So that's more, it was my enjoyment of it that I was like, wow, I really enjoyed these movies because they're so simple.
Right.
So simple. So anyway.
So
right. That was my rebut.
So now I feel like I should preface this by saying Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters 2 are my 2 favorite movies of all time. Yeah. I like Ghostbusters 2 just as much as I like Ghostbusters 1. I think it is a perfect sequel.
I was talking about the new ones.
I know. Oh, I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
Okay.
Let's address 2016 first, because I will not call it Ghostbusters. The problem with that movie is that before the movie was even written, it was, we're going to make a girl Ghostbusters movie. Okay, I don't have a problem with making a girl Ghostbusters movie, but write a good movie first. And then have it also star girls. Perfectly fine. I think the issue I've never seen it, beginning to end, and I won't. And here's why. Every trailer, I watched all of the trailers, and the jokes were so flat and so uninspired and so shticky and so slapsticky, and just the one where Leslie Jones slaps one of the other ones to slap the ghost out of them. I was just like, look, I've seen that gag no less than 300 times in other movies. The cool thing about Ghostbusters, the first Ghostbusters for sure, and even a little bit Ghostbusters 2, is they were doing comedy that no one had seen before. You know, I mean, you, Alice, currently menstruating, that is not a joke that had ever been told.
Yeah.
You know, asking a 60-year-old woman if she was on her period. Like, I mean, and doing it in a way that made it sound like a scientist was asking her. It's just weird. There's a lot of really new stuff that was happening with comic geniuses that were also writers. So a lot of really good stuff happened there. To bring out this movie that didn't really need to be rebooted and have it be so much less than, when it could have been very good. Like, it could have been written as a franchise movie, as and I don't mean as like creating its own franchise, but they were a Ghostbusters franchise, you know, somewhere else. It could have been really good and had the same feel and vibe and be a continuation of the story. That I wouldn't have had a problem with. My problem was this weird reboot with some kind of an agenda, which I don't have a problem with an agenda as long as the movie's good. But man, those jokes were flat. And the only reason that I forgive Afterlife and Frozen Empire their faults is because at their core, both movies had a tremendous amount of heart. And even though they didn't feel like a Ghostbusters movie, they tied enough things in and were true enough to Ghostbusters that what I can say about those two movies is they're not my Ghostbusters, but they're fine. They're fine. I'll watch them. I've watched Afterlife multiple times because at least I'm getting some Ghostbusters. And there are parts, I mean, in Afterlife, there's a shot-for-shot, nearly, recreation of the Terror Dog scene, chasing Louis Tully, only it's chasing Gruberson instead. It's almost shot-for-shot. And you're just like, this feels good. I like this feeling, you know?
That's a really great characterization of those movies. That's really, it's solid. Solid, by the way. Just, you know.
Well, thank you.
You got a lot of good supporting evidence you're giving, but no, I mean, like, really, it's a great assessment of what they did right and wrong. So I don't necessarily disagree with any of that. Interestingly,
I think Frozen Empire was saved by Ray Stantz. I think they gave him, he was truly, and this is why I think this is probably the last Ghostbusters movie with the old cast, which I'm fine with, is, you know, there's that throwaway line in Ghostbusters, ladies and gentlemen, the heart of the Ghostbusters, Ray Stantz. And then they come back to Frozen Empire, and he is obviously the heart of the Ghostbusters. His heart's broken in parts of that movie. He's hopeful in parts of that movie. He is handing the baton and the torch off in parts of that movie. Like, everything that needs to happen to push it in another direction without the OG cast happened. So to me, Ray steals it as far as it feeling kind of like a Ghostbusters movie, in that you're seeing Ray and you're seeing Ray interact with people.
That's really cool. That's really cool. What's interesting is I can admire and understand all your opinions and agree with them while still thinking the female Ghostbusters movie is good. I think it's kind of fascinating that you were able to present an entire case based on trailers. Also explain why the other two new Ghostbusters are respectable. I mean, I think you must hate women. So that's the only conclusion I can reach from this conversation.
But the problem that I have, I also would have been okay with it being like not a Ghostbusters movie. You know what I mean? Not called Ghostbusters, just because the vibe was so different.
It's okay that you hate women. It's all right. All right. Like, I'm not going to judge you. I'm very empathetic. I also hate things that make no sense why I would hate them. But no, I'm just kidding. Listen, most people hate there are some easy, low hanging fruit jokes in it. It has a sort of commercial quality to it. I'll acknowledge that is not. You know, the first two Ghostbusters are very, very, very special films for a variety of reasons. You're absolutely right. They're two of my favorite films, too. And I like them both equally as well, which I think is really interesting. But, you know, I think they went safe, you know, with the female Ghostbusters film to make it, like, make sense for more people. I think it was, like, too much studio interference almost. Something like that. Because I don't think it was the women. When they're riffing and it's like them, you can tell. You know, and I watched the extended edition recently, And it's not bad. The additions are good.
I think that's probably pretty fair. I understand why it ended up bad. Like, I mean, I get it, you know, because the original Ghostbusters movies were not, the studios didn't give a shit about those movies. They didn't even think they were going to, like the first one, they didn't even think it was going to, they're like, what? Ghost Smashers? What are you talking about?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like they didn't, they're just like, it's Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, and Harold Ramis, so we're going to let it happen.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, we're gonna let it happen. We saw Stripes. We're gonna let it happen.
We don't understand it, but we're gonna let it happen.
Yeah, exactly.
By the way, that's the other fun part about D&D. I recommend everybody does voices when they play D&D. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have only half a quarter way done it once, and I think voices are very important.
Oh my God. Just like say, oh, they're going to get me Lucky Charms. Like, it's just fun, you know? Or, you know, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die. Just do any of that. Have fun with it.
How many fingers you got there, sir? How many fingers?
Yeah. I do have 6. So
that's
glad
good.
you noticed that.
That's good. You must have been the hand model for Fringe.
I was. By the way, that show, that's like modern X-Files. So good. It's like, I mean, better than X-Files though. Way better.
I would agree. Yeah. I could never get into X-Files, and Fringe has heart.
Yeah, it does.
And that's important. That's important to bring people in, like the relationships between the characters. I just started rewatching Fringe a week ago. I was talking to a buddy of mine, and I was like, hey, how do you feel about Fringe? And he was like, I was on Fringe. And I was like, oh, shit, sorry.
Again, we talked about this. Doesn't mean he liked it. We're asking how you felt about it, not if you were in it, motherfucker.
Right. So funny.
Thanks for dropping that bomb.
I should have known, but I didn't.
Yeah.
Man, I feel like we could go on for hours, man. We have a lot of similar interests, and you're a very easy person to talk to, man. This has been a blast.
Back at you.
I'm so glad that you came on. I'm glad that Dave connected us, and it's good to. I had a little hiatus. Didn't have any of these coming out, and so I'm glad for the first one back to have been someone that it was so easy to connect with, and that I had a lot of fun, man. This is a lot of fun. And we need to figure out some way to do this again. I got to figure out some way to get you on again.
Whatever you want.
Maybe I've got some ideas.
Maybe I'll try LARPing and then bring me on for LARPing.
I'm just kidding. Do that.
No, I can't.
No. You should insert yourself into a LARPing cell, like an investigative reporter.
There's nothing that would make me more suicidal. So I'm like, gotta be careful for my mental health here. Don't want to.
I mean, to be fair, it might make you suicidal, but it might be the safest place to be suicidal because all their weapons are wrapped in foam.
That's true. That is true. That's not a bad idea. Yeah.
Safety first.
Safety fucking first.
Safe chaos.
Yeah, safe chaos. I do. Yeah, safe chaos, man. Safe chaos.
Well, thank you again, man. Thank you, Mike, for what you do, and thank you for sharing it with everyone. I think a lot of people are going to enjoy this episode, and I really appreciate you coming on, man.
Thanks, Zach. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, too. Yeah, I forget that we have never met. Like, the interaction was so easy. I forget that we've never met. This has been another episode of Those Who Do the Podcast. If you do like this podcast, please remember to subscribe. We need you. We love you. And we're all friends here. Love you.
If you've enjoyed Those Who Do Podcast, please don't forget to leave a review and subscribe. Thank you.
Tony Forsmark.
I need a promo to show what the podcast is about.
Brown.
We're going to be chatting to guests who've overcome adversity, people who have achieved greatness.
And then there's us.
He's about to tell me the worst news ever. And he said, really sorry, there's been a 22-car pileup. Everyone's dead except one person.
I want to know the Randy Spelling story.
My childhood was incredible.
My dad at 7 years old being called the F slur.
What a piece of shit, as you said.
What a piece of shit.
Why are there balloons up on the screen?
Was there balloons on our screen?
What kind of show is this?
Yeah, that's right. But everybody will have a story.
Everybody.
The Brown Pie Podcast is out now. Get it wherever you get your podcasts.